lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
What is up, everybody? Welcome, episode number 295 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, December the 20th, 2025. My name is Jeremy Lee, and a few quick announcements before we dive in. Fanatics Collect Weekly Auction Ending Watch Party back tomorrow night. Check out fundyourcards.com if you would like to add a grail to your collection. They will help you finance that using your own cards. Mint Inc. delivers the ultimate hobby experience from live whatnot streams and auctions to grading, breaks, and 2 full retail stores, including the newly opened Ajax, Ontario location. They do it all, and they are buying collections 7 days a week. Click the link in the description below and use promo code SCL5 for 5% off your first purchase. Shop online anytime with worldwide shipping. Mint Inc., where collecting comes to life. And if you're looking to sell a vintage collection, Leighton Gentleman of Just Collect offers competitive and transparent valuation and payment processing and would love to speak with you. Email Leighton@justcollect.com. GP Sports for your hockey breaks right here on YouTube every Wednesday and Friday. You can visit gpsportscards.com for breaks info and more. And Chronosio still offering flexible pricing. Pay for what you need. Pay for 10 months, get 12. Start managing your collection smarter. Visit home.chronosio.com. If you want to sell your cards on eBay but skip the hassle, reach out to me directly and I can help you sell your cards on eBay with Slab Sharks. Jeremy@slabsharks.com. You can reach me or just DM me on Instagram. If you like to see, if you want to join the Card Ladder crew, like so many of us do, we reference them all the time on the show. We screen share and look at what's going on Card Ladder because that's where that's where I get my comp data from comps are interesting, guys, because they're not the end all be all, but they're very important when you are making certain buying and selling decisions. If you would like to join Card Ladder, there is an affiliate link in the description below. Also, check out frontrowcardshow.com for shows and dates near you, show locations and dates near you. And also my Card Post, the only no selling fee subscription platform in the hobby. Check it out. There is also a link down below for that. This show is also available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review, listen, watch for free, all that jazz. And always thank you, everybody, for joining us. Your questions and comments are in play. You know what else is in play? Joe Perreault from the Shark Tank. Let's welcome Mr. Joe Perreault. What's up, buddy?
What is happening, Jay Lee? Happy holidays to everyone out there. Happy Hanukkah to you, Jay Lee. And just excited to be here. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, thank you. And happy holidays to you, your family. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Now, I do want to let everyone know that 7 days from now, next Saturday, you would expect there'd be an episode, but I will be traveling. So we are not going to do a show next Saturday or next Sunday. But I am toying with the idea, and I want to hear what you guys in the chat think. Should we do an episode on maybe Tuesday the 30th or even Wednesday the 31st? That's New Year's Eve. How many of you people are going to be wanting to watch YouTube on New Year's Eve? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not going to be doing much on New Year's Eve. With the little kids, we'll likely be home throughout the evening. So maybe we'll take New Year's Eve off. Maybe we'll do it on Tuesday the 30th, Joe. Would that work for you? Would you be available on Tuesday the 30th to jump on for a little bit? I mean, literally just thinking about this right now.
Yeah, I'm going to be visiting my dad down in SoCal, and I think I get back in the afternoon the 30th, so it's possible. Let's chat. Let's chat.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll do it on Tuesday. Just watch the channel, watch for the notifications, guys. We will definitely look at doing an episode before the end of the year. But if we, for whatever reason, do not and cannot, then this will be the last show, the last episode of Sports Cards Live here in 2025. All right, well, let's see what's going on in the chat, everybody. Before we, or do you have something else, Joe?
Well, I just wanted to say, I haven't been on the show since the whole Beckett acquisition. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but I appreciated your emergency episode drop with all the folks who came in. I had a work engagement that didn't allow me to jump on, but you guys did a great job of exploring all the ins and outs, and I hope everybody got a chance to listen to that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun episode, fun for us. I don't know, where the hobby is really at with that. Although there have been developments since Monday's emergency live stream with the congressman from New York requesting that the FTC look into any sort of antitrust issues, market control that would now be occurring with collectors, the parent company of PSA, owning PSA, SGC, and Beckett. It's crazy to think of that, Joe. Like 2 years ago, you wouldn't have thought that PSA would absorb those, or the collectors would acquire those two brands. Those two, they're not just brands. These are companies filled with people and histories and obviously policies and their own sets of grading standards. Lots to talk about there. Let's say hi to the chat before we jump too far into that, because we're going to. There's the Wilt Chamberlain that's been downgraded from a PSA 10 to a PSA 9. We got a few other things to chat about. Let's say hi to Laura. Good evening, honored guest, my sports card brothers and sisters. What's up, Laura? Jacob Dahl, Jay Peterman, Larry Gitlin. Good evening, called shot. Jay Hawker. The Curmudgeon is here. E105, Hitsville, USA. We got Rob Starr in the house. We got Linda's First is here. The real Ron Fig. Outlaws is here for the game. What's going on? Happy holidays. Hello, Yankees fan. D Snoots, what is going on? Good to see you. Dan's Vintage, good evening to you, fine sir. Ben Diamond, good to see you. He says, don't use comps, use the force. Hey, I can get behind that for sure. James Hummel, I haven't seen you for a while, buddy. Happy holidays. Good to see you. Linda's First, I'm down for an episode on New Year's Eve. We'll see. Jacob Dahl will be here for New Year's. Shaheen, what's happening? Say no to slabs, he says. Matt Chapman, happy holidays, everyone. It brought me being able to catch a live. There we go. Good to have someone in the live who's not usually here. Flint Hall. Okay, well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but Jeff McMahon, hello to you. Kinger, what's up? Sammy Thunder in the house. Stale Prod, what's going on? Monopoly is not good for the hobby, just like shilling is also not good to the hobby. Sammy says, is there a chance where the FTC breaks up the monopoly? Yeah, great question. What's up, Turner? Good to see you. Lonely Basement, good evening. Chris C says, Chris might get here tonight in a used Corolla, might have passed a truck. Stay regular. Found out I'm 12 pure. Oh, he did the Hobby Spectrum assessment, came out at 12 purist. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hope it gave you some insights. Guess who's here? Guess who's in the chat, Joe? Greg from Midlife Cards is in the chat. What up, Greg? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Chrissy says, any Monopoly is bad, but not the board game. It's not a bad board game. Not tomorrow, Sammy says. Yeah, I don't think they're breaking up the Monopoly tomorrow. David Chase, good evening. What's up, Mookie Chilson? Welcome to the show. And Vintage or Vintique says, always a chance of breaking it up, but Collectors has what they wanted from SGC, the graders. They could sell off the shell of SGC, reduce market share below 80%, or they could just like fold the company, right? They don't even have to sell it off. They could just close it down and now no one can compete with them. I don't think they want to create another competitor or leave that market share out there. If they just got rid of SGC, then no one can send cards to SGC anymore. And then they'd have to send them to PSA, Beckett, or CGC, or somebody else, I suppose. We got Mike Petty in the house. He's 13 on the spectrum. What's up, Mike Petty? And Sancho in the house as well. All right, guys. Yeah, well, let's just talk about this this potential investigation by the federal government of PSA's parent company, Collectors. I don't know if it's called Collectors Holdings or Collectors, but whichever it is, it's an interesting. Here's the article from Sports Collectors Daily right here. Congressman calls for FTC to investigate collector holdings acquisitions of SGC and Beckett. So, Joe, they're not only looking at the Beckett acquisition. It's because they previously acquired SGC that they are also looking at that they're now going to look at this thing. If they didn't, I wonder if Congressman Patrick Ryan here, I wonder if they didn't previously acquire SGC and they had only acquired Beckett, if he would still be as concerned as he is. But it says here, on Thursday, he formally urged the FTC to open an antitrust investigation, arguing the company's acquisitions of not only SGC and Beckett, but also PSA have created a dominant, vertically integrated force that threatens competition in the sports and trading card grading industry. Haven't seen the word monopoly yet. And I mean, there are other options. There's like 50 other options. There is no shortage of grading companies out there. The problem is that the hobby puts so much attributes so much cachet and value to PSA that the hobby, because of secondary market sales, that it seems like they're a monopoly. It's like we, the hobby, have caused them to be a monopoly or a market dominator. But so I don't know. I mean, is there a difference between threatening competition and being a monopoly? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but in any event, I agree. Monopolies aren't good for any market, any industry, and probably not good for ours. Prices can go up, quality can go down. I think both likely would happen if it's even possible. So, Joe, what do you think? Any thoughts on what happens if the government says no? You cannot, no collectors universe, or collectors holdings, you cannot purchase Beckett. What happens then? I mean, and there's no real answer, Joe. I don't even know how you answer that, Joe, because we're back to where we are right now. So we just rewind the clock a week, and that's it. That's the end of the story. But do you have any thoughts on the whole situation, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, more questions than answers, Jay Lee, and you laid it out there. I mean, I remember you maybe a year and a half ago, just saying it would be very unlikely that there would be something in the land of regulation. I still find it pretty hard to believe that there's going to be any real traction in disrupting this acquisition. That's just my instinct. I have no real understanding of how politics works, but this strikes me as someone kind of, or Patrick Ryan, ironically, firing a shot out there and maybe seeing if he can get a little airtime. I hope if it goes the other direction, obviously I've got a variety of feelings, depend on how it plays out. I actually had kind of made my peace a little bit with the Beckett acquisition as I sort of, heard some interactions with Nat and other people in the hobby, and kind of started to think maybe PSA isn't going to kill BGS. Maybe PSA will do something to kind of bring it into its portfolio in such a way that it actually at least holds it up for a little bit. And maybe even in that context, SGC looks a little bit better in terms of collectors managing these different branches that, but Beckett, much more than SGC, has a huge tradition and a lot of ramifications. I mean, we all go back to the price guide itself. There's a marketplace there. Obviously, pricing cards is something that Beckett's been associated with for years. So I've got a lot of questions. I got a lot of curiosities. I got no answers for you.
I know. I don't think anybody does at this point, except for maybe Congressman Patrick Ryan, who I think we all know is not the P. Ryan of the hobby. When I first saw it, I thought it was. I thought it was P. Ryan.
He's back.
making an effort to win some love amongst hobbyists for going after a situation like this. But then I quickly realized, well, first of all, he's not a congressman, so that's not gonna. Well, I didn't think he was a congressman, so that's not the case. But I wonder if the deal does go through, then what really happens? First of all, I like what you mentioned, that there's a marketplace. I think that might be very attractive to PSA, even though PSA has partnered with eBay to be its marketplace, and that's a much better marketplace, much more exposure there than you're ever going to get on the Beckett marketplace, which I don't think I've visited the Beckett marketplace in 15 years. It's not even on my radar. I never think about it, which is probably a sign of how great their marketing has been for the past 2 decades or so. So there's the marketplace side. There's Steve Grad and the Beckett Authentication Services team, which would be full circle because they used to be with PSA. Then they went to Beckett. I think they kind of had a better offer there, and now they're back under the PSA umbrella, although under completely new leadership, right? The Nat Turner led group. Yep. So that's right. Different for the BAS group. And then we've got the grading company. And then I think to myself, are they going to want to keep that around? Because again, now you've got to tell your customers, you've got to tell the hobby that you now believe in a 9.5. You've also got to tell the hobby that there's something better out there than a PSA 10. Both BGS 10, because BGS 10 Pristine is better than PSA 10. Pristine on the generally accepted schedule of conditions is above Gem Mint. Not only that, they've got the Pristine Black Label, which sells for more than PSA 10s do, I believe, card by card. So all of a sudden, PSA in its own portfolio has something better than what is their featured brand. It is their top level. I would think PSA and the PSA 10 is their biggest asset. They're intangibly speaking, is the PSA 10. Now all of a sudden there's 2 better ones. That I find that interesting as well. So I did listen to Dr. Beckett's podcast talking about the sit down he had with Nat Turner, and he left that feeling very encouraged. And I'm kind of like on both sides of this thing, Joe. Half of me feels that I'm okay with Beckett being owned by collectors. Like, if they keep it as is, that's all good. If they don't keep it as, if they do something else with it, like, what else are they going to do with it? How are they going to integrate it into their portfolio? And I don't know how they're going to do that, but there are some issues with that for them from a market presenting their products and services to the market. Yeah, it adds confusion. The 9.5 is probably one of the things that I come to the most. I've been thinking about the 9.5. The 10 is one thing. The 10 is a Pristine. A PSA 10 is a Gem Mint. How do they explain that to all the customers out there? I don't know.
Well, to play devil's advocate real quick, I mean, yeah, that has been longstanding, a sort of dichotomy that we've all talked about with the domination that PSA has exerted over the Beckett and other grading companies. I see the point you're making, but I'm not sure it ultimately rises to the level where you would feel the need to kill the brand and or alter the brand's way of evaluation. If the threat is truly, the Black Label or the Pristine, I mean, I don't know. I still feel like that PSA 10 holds that cachet. It's also interesting that this is all happening at a time where we're questioning grading across the board. I mean, there's been, various stories coming out. I mean, I don't know if you caught Midlife's drop with his dad, telling the stories about all those 7s and 8s bumped up to 9s, testimony. So, I mean, this is nothing new for you and me, but it is just interesting that it's the story and the acquisition and all of this is emerging at a moment where everything is feeling charged. at least in our bubble here of, content creation and, keeping track of the hobby news. But I don't know. I don't think the 9, 5, 10 pristine black label thing necessarily has to be a deal breaker. I think you could just celebrate that, and that's one thing that, there's still not people. There's people out there that have no interest in those slabs, right? And many of them prefer the PSA 10, regardless of the monetary, kickback that you might get from a black label. And we know they're very, very, exceedingly rare. So, I hear you, and we could get fixated on that. But if collectors wants to amplify the brand, I think they could probably do a pretty good job, like uplifting the BGS brand that's been somewhat on life support for the last 10 years.
I hope. Yeah, listen, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see them going that route. I just don't see it. To amplify a competing product would almost be telling the customer base that PSA is not all that. It's kind of.
Are they really a threat? I mean, it's one thing not to pull the plug and just let them be. Maybe amplify is too much. But I mean, are they really, like, what is the harm of letting Beckett continue to be where it is in the market, which is, 2% of the market share? I don't know if that. Is that right. So it comes down to intent. Why did they purchase this thing? If you're going to let it sit at their 2 or 4% of market share, is that enough? Does that justify buying the business? But then they and don't forget that it might, because they get the graders, they get the facilities, they get the history, they get all the resource material, everything else that's in there. But if they take if they do what they do with SGC, they take the graders and they move them from Beckett and bring them over to PSA, where they make more money per card. Keep in mind, that's the big thing here. PSA is the cash cow. Beckett isn't. They're not. I mean, are they going to all of a sudden give a guarantee on Beckett cards? Are they going to increase the price of Beckett grading? I don't know, man. I don't. Well, how about the PR angle though? Like, all right, do you really want to embrace the Death Star persona that everyone's already got you? I mean, you can. There goes SGC, there goes Beckett, or you can say, no, actually, we're not, trying to excavate the entire hobby history in such a way where all of that. I mean, there's got to be a conversation in the C-suite there about what makes sense. The potential PR hit. Now, when I say PR hit, I know it's momentary. I know that people will move on to the next thing and suddenly it'll just be, PSA is all we got. But in this moment, I feel like there's a lot of people paying attention. There's a lot of people interested in what they do next. And so we're hearing the disgruntled, I'm never going to grade a card again types of folks. And I think that's something they need to consider. And maybe it's just about timing. Maybe it's how slowly you pull the plug. But yeah, these are all things that will be revealed.
Yeah, I will bet that Isaacson runs the company right now, Beckett. I will put the over-under on under as far as how long he lasts there versus Peter Steinberg at SGC. I will put the over-under on way under, because I don't know. I think his name's Kevin Isaacson. I don't know him. I've seen him for years at the Beckett booth at various shows, the National, etc. I don't know him. But just from seeing him, he looks like a no-nonsense kind of guy. Again, I'm talking out of my butt. I don't know this guy at all. But Peter Steinberg was a young guy in a great position, did a great job, tons of energy, tons of youthful energy. And I don't see Isaacson being it doesn't look to me to be the kind of guy who's going to just all of a sudden be willing to answer to somebody new and do things their way. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, they're going to take over the running of the business. I don't obviously listen. I'm not Nat or Ryan or any of these guys running collectors, but that's just my gut feel based on what we've seen and just, observing this market for so long. So yeah, Let's go to some comments. Sammy Thunder said, how much of a vintage following does PSA have? If they were to shut down SGC, what effect would that have on PSA's reputation? Would it matter? I think at this point, PSA goes away and we don't hear much about it. You know, you'll get 7 to 10 days worth of content, and then that'll be it. Just my thoughts. Sancho says, hopefully, yeah.
You said PSA would go away. SGC would go away. 7 days.
You. Yeah, thank you. Sancho, hopefully he doesn't. Okay, we're not going to do that comment. Dan's vintage. P. Ryan leaves the hobby. Suddenly he's in Congress. Yes. Hello, Orlando. Good to see you. Sammy Thunder, there's a lot of chatter about CGC stepping in. If CGC is generating that chatter, then that's, that's something. But for now, I don't see there being any way they can step in unless the deal is unwound. And that's not going to happen right away. So we'll see what happens there. Absolutely. Ben Diamond says PSA will grade all this congressman's cards a 10 to drop the case. Orlando says CGC just raised prices when they should lower them now. Or they can't handle the intake, Orlando, and this is their one lever to manage the influx of submissions. Could be that. SaleProd says that's why I buy the card, not the slab. Yeah, that's easier said than done for a lot of people, but obviously I agree with that. James says that's right. PSA is not a monopoly for several reasons. They are the market leader. There is no barrier to entry in grading. All you need to do is buy a slabbing machine. That's all you need. You don't even need to know how to grade cards. I mean, look at what we deal with right now. You don't really need to know how to grade cards to start a grading company. Anyone can start a grading company. The barriers to entry are minimal. You might not get much market share, but it's not hard to start the company. Chris C, politicians are just looking for financial kickback. If they cared about monopolies, we would have multiple local electric companies. Chris says CU doesn't stand for Collectors Universe. It stands for Competition Unemployed. Matt Chapman says Fanatics and eBay probably called. Who knows? The big 5-0 for Chris. Happy big 50th birthday for you, Chris. Yeah, big happy birthday. That's a big one for sure. Laura says, if anything, the congressman's inquest will draw attention to the hobby and more opinions on both. Orlando says, Congress won't do anything. It's just for show. Some donor told him to file. That could be the case. Maybe it is just for show, but it's finally made its way to the government, outside of Operation Bullpen and all these things we've seen before, as far as just the market domination. Sammy says, I know grading has its problems, but with all the acquisitions, the secrecy and the shady behavior as collectors, it's hard to feel good about its future. Yep. Skeppy, I am wearing the play ball from Reindeer Studios. James Hummel, I'd be interested to hear Dr. Beckett's thoughts on this purchase. You can. He already talked about it on his podcast just the other day. He had a visit from Nat Turner, and he shared a lot of what happened in that visit. Greg says you'll start visiting the Beckett marketplace if all the new PSA, SGC, and Beckett slabs post there instead of eBay. Yeah, I mean, I don't see that happening because that would be a huge hit to the values of all those slabs because there's no one on that marketplace right now, or very few people. But if that's where we all went, then that's where we all go. I mean, we eventually we go where the cards are if we know where the cards are. Orlando says Dr. Beckett discussed the sale on Hobby Hotline. Nat Turner went to his house and discussed the purchase. Chris C says, we as a hobby made PSA the monster they are. It didn't become this way overnight. I don't grade, but the ones who do and flip aren't going to stop. Hobby with Cage says, sounds familiar. Yeah, I mean, they buy SGC and now they buy Beckett, and they bought PSA first. So yeah, it's a familiar situation. Absolutely, Cage. Bystander, I think they basically kill the grading, but use the Beckett name in some other fashion. That's kind of what I could see something like that, where there's other assets there for them. Could be. Toyota just purchased Lexus. Iconic Al, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Vintique says SGC has pristine 10s too. They just don't sell for more than PSA 10s, right? Where the black label is I just saw, listen, a Connor McDavid black label Young Guns just sold for like $15,000 or $20,000. which is mind-blowingly silly. But it's what it sold for. That's like 10 times more than a PSA 10, or maybe it's 8 times more. That could be an issue. That right there could be an issue to the cachet of the PSA 10. Under the same, like, I think if PSA could go back in time, they might and foresee the Beckett pristine gold and black label, they might have an issue. They might take issue with that if they had the chance. They can't do that anymore. Flint Hall thinks that Steve Grad is a con artist. Double V says, hello, what's up, Mike Double V? Sammy Thunder, you'd think that collectors wants PSA to be the golden goose of grading. If they did, they'd find a way to improve the turn. They do, because that's where they make the most money. That's where they make the most money. PSA card, they just charge more than any other grading company out there. So Shaheen says the way they always play it, nothing to see here, sweeps under the rug. People are submitting lots of Pokemon and TCG to, I don't know what Apate is. Good evening, Piccolino the cat. Okay, Dan says not going to Jim Beckett's house is going to end up being just a cruel manipulation. Oh, not going to Beckett's house is just going to end up being a cruel manipulation. Beckett Grading has zero credibility and will be closed within 18 months. Well, I don't know if they have zero credibility, Dan, but I do agree that they'll be closed within 18 months. Or I don't say I agree. I'll say I won't be surprised. Joe?
Yeah,
Joe doesn't think.
I think it's different. I think I could see SGC being gone and BGS being absorbed in some way, but maybe I'm naive. Maybe it is the Death Star.
James Hummel says, as a collector and reseller, I use both companies. I use PSA to grade and sell. I use BGS to grade and collect. I much prefer the BGS slab and look over the PSA slab. Fair. I mean, yeah, people have their opinions. And you're not alone, James. A lot of people prefer the BGS slab. Absolutely. Lots of moving goalposts, Jim. Bystander says same graders should bring more credibility to the grades. Linda's first. It just seems like whenever grading comes up in hobby conversation nowadays, it's always a downer. It's because the hobby is starting to wake up and open their eyes. Linda's first. Unfortunately, I mean, when you just realize how inconsistent it is, and that you pay for a 10, but a 10 could easily be a 9, or once was a 9, or maybe it was a 9 5 times before it became a 10. Yeah, people need to be aware of that. Otherwise, you are just you're being fooled. You're just being fooled pretty much. Otherwise, Yeppy says, Joe, please stop hitting your hand over the desk. Now everyone hear it. You're welcome. Okay, I didn't hear it. Both are boutique brands. Yeah, Beckett could become a boutique brand. Dave Snyder says one step closer to full acceptance of tag. I mean, tag is killing it in Pokemon, but the sports card world the sports card segment never accepted tag. They just didn't. The Pokemon world did, and tag responded by serving that market. What else were they supposed to do? Just go after the market that didn't want them, or so tag is killing it in Pokemon, and they're doing very well there. So we'll see. Michael H. Jeremy loves me, and he is struggling to deny it. I don't know who you are, Michael H., but yeah, I love you. Absolutely, I do. Mike Petty says, today is the first time Mr. Beckett has smiled in over 7 years. I've watched him. He was giddy to be moved to the broom closet while PSA takes over their graders. And I think Dr. Beckett is just really happy that the brand that carries his name is in what he thinks are good hands right now. And yeah, he might be fooled. He might have been fooled. We'll see. Time will tell. Anony, I'm still not crossing over my BGS cards at PSA. Once it's in a slab, it's in a slab. Right on. Watergate, Jeremy. Watergate. Linda's first. Maybe it's some sort of Morse code. Okay, you're still talking about someone touching their desk. I don't know if that was you or me, Joe. But
right.
we got Chris Sewell in the back, guys. Chris, we're gonna bring out 1 minute. I'm just gonna run through the rest. Yeah, we'll bring out 1 minute, buddy. 1 minute. Petty says they took SGC from 13 market per share to 4. Beckett will go to 4 to 2 in 3 months. They will not put a nickel into anything, just like SGC. That's what a lot of people think. I'm like, I feel like that's what's going to happen, but I don't know. I just don't know. It'll be fun to watch it as time goes by. Absolutely. Okay, what else?
Fun or something else. I don't know about fun. Interesting.
Well, listen, if you're gonna, I'll tell you what, Joe. You find yourself clicking on the thumbnails.
I do.
You know, yeah.
I do. So,
Justin
yeah.
Bode, what is going on, buddy? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. Well, Jayhawk, unless you plan on selling some cards anytime soon, there's nothing wrong with keeping your cards ungraded until all this grading company crap sorts itself out. I agree. Absolutely. Yes, we are all aliens, Michael. Raw rule, says Mark Stein. Dan says, Joe, you're assigning a moral code to Nat Turner. He's a venture capitalist shark. There are no morals. This is an aggressive acquisition and a naked power play. Okay. Cage says Isaacson will remain CEO of Southern Hobby. This buyout has not. Yeah, they didn't acquire Southern or Dragon Shield, is what I heard Dr. Beckett say. So if Isaacson's going to remain CEO of Southern Hobby, that means he's not part of the acquisition. I thought he was running, and Cage, maybe you know, but I thought he was running the whole thing. I just don't know. Petty says Beckett says Isaacson will spin off the other two companies they left them with. He won't be needed for him. Okay, good to hear right there. Vintage card. Wasn't it reported that Kevin Isaacson is staying? Okay, so I did not know that, guys. Thank you. I just learned that right now from you guys. Hockey Card Exchange, they can't keep it with the pristine still out there and with them doing a terrible job grading vintage. I don't want BGS graders grading for PSA now. I'm kind of on that same page. So HC and I were thinking the same way, both on the issues with the grades and the graders. Flint Hall says Jeff Wilson thinks PSA should have Beckett get rid of 9.5 to a 10. Yeah, well, we know how Jeff's predictions usually go. But hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day, they say. Vintage says, Dan's Vintage says Dr. Beckett talked about it for an hour on Hobby. I haven't watched that yet, Dan. So I'll listen to that and see what else he said. Mike Cam says Tag put out a comment about remote grading coming. There is a massive opening in the sports card side of the hobby right now, and you need to strike. Yeah, I don't know if Tag is ready to strike or not, but I am aware that their remote grading pods are, I believe, like imminent. And that's all I know. I don't speak with them regularly. David Chase, easy solution to this nonsense: just buy cards that are already slabbed. Let others deal with the grading. That's my position exactly. And that way, don't forget, everyone else pays your insurance premiums that way. It's a beautiful thing. Beckett upcharge. I said it on Monday. I'll say it again. I love the Beckett upcharge. Sorry, I love the PSA upcharge because I've never paid it. I paid it once. So almost never pay it myself.
Yep.
And I buy Beckett slabs. Sorry, I buy PSA slabs, and I get the insurance that everyone else has paid when they submitted. It's a great situation. The upcharges are wonderful because it's the only insurance in the world where other people pay your premiums, and they're good for you for life, up to $250K per card, 500 lifetime. So, all right, guys, we're going to, I'm going to just sort of, tons of more comments, but I'm going to go by them now, and we're going to bring Chris Sewell on. Joe, Chris, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go, buddy. Everybody, please welcome Mr. Chris Sewell, baseball card collector, investor, dealer. And Chris, before we get started, first say hi to Joe. And Joe,
hey, what's up, Joe?
What's happening, Chris? Great to have you here.
Yeah, man.
Chris, before we go, you completed the collector investor assessment on the hobbyspectrum.com. Where did you what archetype did you land yourself in?
I have it pulled up right here. I was ready. I'm a 60, which is a builder.
He
Nice.
scored a 60 on the 1 to 100 continuum, the spectrum itself, and he is in the builder category, which is one to the right of center being hybrid, builder, then it goes operator, and then tycoon. And we haven't seen anyone yet fall into the operator or tycoon archetype. We have several builders, but no one has scored higher than I think a 68 or so far, Chris. So
okay, interesting. Oh, I was going to ask you that. So I'm not the first builder.
You're not the first builder. You're not the only builder. I'll just we have the direct. Here's the directory. Here's what the Hobby Spectrum directory looks like. And if I just go to and I go to builders, we have 5 builders so far, and we can even go by order. And there we go. Chris Sewell is 60. We've got what Pang Ming Wee. What's his? I was just on his podcast, and now the name is I feel terrible. The name's escaping me, but he came in at 65, and Bob Lalonde is the highest on the whole spectrum right now at 67. If we actually look at all archetypes,
so I got the third highest score. The higher, the better, right?
There's no better or worse. That's the beautiful thing, Chris. There's no better or worse anywhere on the spectrum. It is where you are. It's what you do. It's how you approach the hobby. So, okay. It's we're very heavy in the green, which is the precisionist, the blue, the nostalgic, and then we have 10 purists so far. So, but as time goes by, and these numbers are going to get bigger and bigger, and we'll see how many operators and tycoons we eventually have. So
yeah, I told you on the phone. I'm sure everyone's unique, but I feel like I'm a weird one because I'm sort of like 80% tycoon and 20% purist. And so answering a lot of the questions were tough, but it sort of landed me where I should be based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So listen, when you just joined, we were talking about, as you know, the collectors holdings acquisition of Beckett grading, Beckett marketplace, Beckett authentication. What are your thoughts on this, Chris? Where are you kind of right now in your head about how this could impact the hobby?
It was big news. It's like very surprising in the moment, but then after you think about it, it's sort of not surprising anymore because it seems like a logical step. It's a shame, honestly. I mean, a lot of people have commented on it. I don't know that I have a lot more anything new to add. Disappointing. I mean, we're going. PSA is just becoming this gigantic powerhouse that nobody can compete with at this point.
And is that a bad, let's just talk about what's so bad? What's so bad about having what's the downside? What is the downside of collectors holdings owning the three biggest grading companies of the last 30 years? I mean, CGC is big now, but they weren't, 5 years ago. They become number 2, I believe. But historically, PSA, Beckett, SGC, and it really was Beckett then PSA for a long time in terms of, just overall cachet of the brand. But now they're all under one common owner. And what's the bad? I mean, listen, obviously, go ahead, Chris.
No. Go, finish your question.
Yeah, just like what's the downside for the hobby?
Yeah, I mean, well, in theory, it could be not a bad thing if PSA kept them independent and they all ran independently, and it's like, Coke and Sprite are owned by the same. Is it Coke and Sprite owned by the same company? You don't know the difference, and cool. But what we've already seen with SGC, they've basically collapsed. I mean, they had a run of about a year there where collectors owned them and they were doing fine, but then they seem to just sort of shove them into the closet like everyone. That's the sort of being the phrase that everyone uses. Put them in the broom closet. And why wouldn't you think they're not going to do that with Beckett? And in 3 years, we're going to have 2 companies, which, I'd rather have 4 than 2. Like that's sort of the big picture concern, which I don't know that that'll definitely happen, but I think that's very much in play. I mean, don't you?
Yeah. I do think it's very much in play that we get that they just, shutter SGC and Beckett eventually. I think it's in play. It's obviously it's an option that they would have, I believe, unless. No, there's no unless. I was going to say unless there's some deal in the acquisition of Beckett that says that they won't do that. But I mean, what's the recourse there? What's really going to stop them from doing that? It's like I think they're going to do whatever they want. I think it's good for them from a IPO standpoint to just sort of say that, hey, there's no competition for us, so we're a good investment for you. But back like the question about what's the downside. I know there's downside. Obviously, it would be market domination. The downside, like Bystander says, is prices, and Mookie says the downside so far is rising prices and slower turnaround times.
Right. Well, I mean, if they only got one competitor, they're going to have more incentive to raise prices and slow turnaround times. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah. Joe, anything else? Because I mean, this whole topic is. I don't know what else we can really say about it right now until more news comes out. But anything you'd like to say to almost and Chris, to you too, like just think any final thoughts you have on this, Joe?
The thought I have is that SGC was gaining ground in the vintage world. I mean, and by gaining ground, I mean they had a very fierce, loyal segment who only would grade with them. And in some ways, it just, that to me invites the question of what does BGS do that's better? And I think there could have been an argument that SGC did vintage better. Does BGS in its current state do anything better than PSA?
Some people argue that they have the subgrades, and some people argue that they have a sturdier case, a sturdier slab. Chris, can you think of anything else that Beckett does better than PSA?
At the moment, I mean, the subgrades would be the only thing I could sort of jump. I don't particularly like the slab. I know there are people who do like the slab, so that's obviously just a personal preference thing. But the subgrades, but yeah, other than that, I mean, no, Beckett's not like they're not like a company that's been doing great, you know, over the last few years. They're struggling. They've been struggling. So I don't know that they're buying them for their core competencies, if you will.
And you know, on the slab, I'm more on your side there, Chris. I like it for its sturdiness, but it's just so prone to surface blemishes and the slab itself being damaged. It really takes it. It really makes it harder to enjoy your card when it's in a Beckett slab that hasn't been preserved properly. So,
for me, it's a lot of it's what do you call it, logistical or whatever. Beckett's slabs are much thicker and heavier, and so you know I ship a lot of cards out.
Yeah.
And when you got to ship 30 cards, it's a lot cheaper to do it with PSA.
Yeah, absolutely. They take up less room. They're lighter for sure. Chris says, I noticed the congressman said nothing about the monopoly that Fanatics is. There are multiple issues in the hobby.
Yeah.
Fanatics isn't a monopoly either. Like you can buy Leaf cards, you can buy wild card cards. They have the sole licenses. So that, and maybe that's what Chris and everyone would talk about when they say Fanatics as a monopoly. It's the single license. But this single license era has been going on since the 2000s. Yeah. Is it going to take 15 years to become an issue? What do you think, Chris?
I actually wondered what, because a lot of people throw around monopoly. I wonder what like the technical definition of a monopoly is. Like the PSA has had what 75% of the market share. Now they have, after buying the last two companies, now they have 92% of them. I don't know what it is. Like, when does it become a monopoly? Because they don't have 100. And I think you were mentioning earlier, barriers to entry are very. You can start I can start a grading company in my garage if I want. I won't get any real market share, but it's not like something you can't start and other companies can't start. So I would assume the definition of monopoly is you essentially have 100% and nobody else can even enter the space, which is not the case at all here. But maybe that's not. Maybe I don't understand what like the technical definition of monopoly is.
Yeah, I don't think that's it exactly, but I also don't have it top of mind to just recite it. But I think there's probably a threshold of percent of market share that would come into play, and then barriers to entry and how hard it is to compete. It's very hard to compete for licensed baseball, basketball, football cards.
It's impossible.
You can't compete there. Same with hockey on Upper Deck side of things. But. Yeah,
I think for the argument that Fanatics is a monopoly is a much more credible argument to me than PSA or collectors. I don't know.
When it comes to licensed sports cards,
well, we need a lawyer. We need someone who knows what they're talking about. This.
Well, we got a couple in the chat. We'll have one on a little bit later on. Yeah. Dan's Vintage said it's great. That PSA becomes the only game. What's that?
Here's our lawyer, Dan.
Here's our lawyer. It's great that PSA becomes the only game in town if you like inconsistent grading, longer wait times, and poor customer service. Dan, the hobby has shown for years that the hobby likes that. The hobby likes inconsistent grading, long wait times, and poor customer service. If the hobby didn't, PSA probably wouldn't be able to afford to buy Beckett and SGC. But the hobby keeps on pumping them full of money. That obviously the hobby loves inconsistent grading, long wait times, and poor customer service. And listen, I can't speak to the customer service. I've had to deal with their customer service once in my life, and they did good by me at PSA when I had a claim because someone else paid my insurance premiums, and I got paid out because of that. So to all of you people out there paying those up charges, thank you. on behalf of collectors who buy on the secondary market, we thank you for continuing to pay those upcharges and really covering us. It's a wonderful thing, those PSA upcharges. So I love them. I love them as a buyer on the secondary market, Chris.
So do you feel, so both of you, have you become PSA haters, or do you feel like you're, would you call yourself a PSA hater?
Oh, absolutely not.
No. Okay.
No, I don't. Hate isn't really a thing, an emotion that I really have inside of me. I don't really hate, but I'm very critical of PSA, and I'm not critical of the price. I'm not critical of the pricing or the upcharges, and I'm also not critical of the longer wait times. I don't care about wait times, because when I submit a card for anything, if I've submitted a card for grading, I'm usually willing to wait as long as it takes, because I'm not flipping it. I'm not, when I buy cards on ComC, I let them accumulate for like a year. That's a wait time. It's a self-imposed wait time, and I don't mind, because I'll get it when I get it, and I'll enjoy it. So I'm not just flipping it. So I don't care about wait times. So the only thing that I'm really critical of about PSA is the product, the inconsistent grading, and the fact that you can just keep on submitting a card until you get the grade that you want. That's my issue. My issue is that there's just the inconsistency of it. And that's where I'm at. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I use PSA all the time. To me, a lot of the complaints are overblown, but the inconsistent grading is clearly their big flaw at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's hard to blame them, because they are human, and they are decentralized. They continue to become more decentralized, so control is going to become an issue over adherence to standards. Standards change, standards drift. Joe, what about you? Chris sort of asked both of us that question.
Thanks, Lee.
Yes, a hater was the wrong term, but I meant maybe what I meant to say was, like, have you become more critical in recent years?
I mean, in surfing, there's a phrase that says, you got to play the wave. You got to play the wave. You can't actually do the thing you want to do without attention to what's going on in a force way mightier than you are, namely the ocean. I look at it the same way. I mean, PSA is what it is. There's inconsistencies. There's different, iterations. There's certain cards, you look at the star market, for instance, and kind of evaluate how they assess star cards, the top centering, this, that, and the other. Like there's just so many idiosyncrasies within the realms of grading. You got to play the wave. You got to kind of know what's going on, pay attention, stay present to the situation that you're in, and, do your research, as Carvin Chung would be one to say. And if you do, I don't have any preternatural disdain to PSA. Many, if not most of my most prized cards are in PSA holders. And there is some confidence having them in PSA holders. That said, I feel like I can still be critical. I can still, raise the pitchfork from time to time about a grading inconsistency. And so just play the wave, and we'll see where things go.
Good. That's a good attitude to have. And I like the ocean analogy with the shark behind you.
Yeah. Let's go to a couple comments here, guys. Mark Stein said the only thing I like about PSA is their slabs are easy to crack. Now, my understanding is that they've become a lot harder recently, and I never tried to crack a new PSA slab, so I don't know. But I've seen some reels and videos where they are a lot harder than they used to be. So I don't know if that's still the case, but of the 75 million that are out there already, or I think it's 90 something million that are out there. 95%, probably 99.5% of them are easier to crack. Orlando says PSA resale values are their biggest advantage, along with or due to the registry. And I wonder, I don't hear much registry talk anymore, like I used to. And the resale values, that's on us. That's not on PSA. And I'm not saying Orlando said that, but I'm just saying PSA resale values, that's on us and influencers. I think I remember when Kendrick Perkins made a comment like it's PSA or nothing, and that seemed to be a bit of a turning point for PSA, as far as I remember. and that was early pandemic, and so again, that's the hobby did that to itself.
Definitely the values are they blow over everything else. Every other number one reason is values. Whatever's number two is way down the list in terms of why they have so much power. But I would actually say that I do think the registry plays a huge part. I think there are a lot of private collectors that collect based on the registry. That whoever came up with the registry 30 years ago that's like a genius idea. And I think that created a lot of collectors who only want PSA, because a lot of collectors want uniform in their collection. I think it's a massive piece.
It certainly
no other company can compete with.
And it certainly has been historically, Chris. I agree. I think the PSA set registry is one of the biggest reasons why why PSA is in such high demand.
Yeah.
But I also think that that is there's risk there for everyone who's so invested in that, because your registry scores are based on very inconsistent, almost non-repeatable scoring or grading. So, but yeah, I think it's huge. Joe?
I think what I lament as I kind of step back away from it is that, there's a tool for each and every job, right? Around the house or in the yard or whatever, you got, the hoe, you got the lawnmower, you got this, you got that. And I actually appreciated the variety of being able to access an SGC, a BGS, and a PSA for different cards, for different circumstances. And if that does end up going away, that will make me feel a little bit sad about my hobby experience, because I feel like options are nice.
Options are nice. Well, it could go the other way, right? They could start including SGC and Beckett in the set registry now, because they own them all. So maybe they just they start including that. So it could go the other way and benefit everybody. But that's.
But you got to think they make a lot of money off of people cracking competitor slabs, Beckett slabs, putting them in PSA slabs for the registry. And I know you can include non-PSA cards in the registry, but I think people want the PSA. I think you can include them. I don't know if they score for you. So if they were to start scoring them as part of the PSA set registry, that would disincentivize people from crossing over, which means that cards are going to only be graded. They're not going to be, I was going to say cards will only be graded once. Cards are graded tons of times, it seems, but that means that they won't be graded anymore. So I don't know if they would do that. I don't know if that's a smart move.
No, that's a good point. My sense, and tell me if you disagree, my sense is that the number of cards that are actually cracked and resubmitted is a tiny percentage of cards. Like, more than 99% of cards you would never think to crack, and probably it's way more than 99%. But did you agree with that? Like, so I would think that's a concern, that like they're like, okay, are we gonna? That's like 0.5% of our revenue would disappear if we did that. That's probably not us. Off the top of my head, I
don't know. It's a good question. I don't know how many cards are cracked and resubmitted, but there's no shortage of hearing about people doing it.
No, that's true. Yeah. Well, I think when it's a good story, right? Cracking and resubmitting a card.
I mean, I'm going to start saying, "Hey guys, check out my new card." Not cracking it. Like, let's hear from the people who aren't cracking them.
Yeah.
What's up, MG? Well, good to see you. James here says the hobby likes the value PSA provides our cards.
Yeah.
No, except that we don't. No, see, this is. I don't agree with the comment, James. And I mean, this is what I just said. PSA does not provide that value to our cards. We provide that value. You stop paying it, that it becomes a whole different thing. So it's not PSA, guys. It's you. You're providing that value to PSA versus PSA providing the value to you. So you think about it, how silly does it make us all look, especially people buying 10s that used to be 9s and paying through the nose for them, when you can look at the card, it's not worthy of a 10. It's at best a very weak 10, or worse than other 10s. But people will pay for that number because they think that PSA provides that value. But it's really the hobby that assigns the value to PSA. PSA came around after hobbyists did. Chris, you're deep thinking.
You got my head spinning. Do you think How many, if you looked at 100 PSA cards, how many do you think you would disagree with? The grade?
45. 45.
45? Joe, what?
Yeah.
How about, no, 40.
Yes.
Joe, what do you-
40. Chris, I've long felt that they are going to be able to repeat the grade just over 50% of the time on resubmission. And I've seen evidence of that. I've seen evidence of that 50%. So I'm giving them the benefit. I'm rounding up to 55.
Giving them an extra 5%. That's really okay. Joe, what do you think, Joe?
It's context. You know, if I can look at the cert number and assess with the context of the cert, you know, which is strange to say because that's going to bring huge variety there in and of itself.
You're saying like the older ones, you'd think there were more discrepancies, or the newer ones?
Well, I would, you know, so a PSA card graded in, you know, 2012, I'm going to have was it graded in 2012? Do I think it's overgraded now versus like, do I think it was overgraded in 2012? So it's relative to me. And I would say, but, you know, just to answer your question, the number that came to my mind was 35. So I'm a notch down from Jeremy, but I think that you have to take into account how the grading standards have changed. And regardless of what they say, they haven't, you can see, I mean, the Wilt Chamberlain, notwithstanding that being a pretty major snafu, and I'm not sure that card, would love to hear your thoughts on that, Chris, but just, yeah, I don't know. I think there are a lot of variances, and the variances can be accounted for the epoch or era in which the card was graded.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. Let me rephrase the hypothetical. If let's say we have 100 cards that were graded last month by PSA, and how many of them would you think the grade's reasonable? Like, so a lot of cards you can be like, wow, that could be a 7 or an 8. So how many would you think the grade is reasonable?
Well, is reasonable within one grade?
Like, you look at it and you're like, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, because that is a different question, because, you know, the question I answered the first time was, how often do I think they will grade the same card the same on a second submission? I think that's about 55%. 55%. But how often?
That you really think? I mean, I believe you actually would know this more than me.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe. I hope I'm wrong. It's one of those things where you hope you're wrong, because I got lots of PSA slabs, and I'm certain I've got 6s that are 4s nowadays, and, you know, plus their standards, their adherence to standards ebbs and flows with time. It's a lever that they can pull to get more submissions when they need to. I'm not saying they do it all the time. Right now, they probably are fighting off submissions. That's why turnaround times go up and prices go up. But as far as how many times do I think their grade is reasonable, I probably more than 55%. I think it's reasonable, because I'm also assessing a lot of these cards, Chris, on a screen, so I can't really see exactly what I'm looking at when I'm looking at cards, especially when I'm doing live streams here. In person cards, I'm going to say reasonable. I think it's reasonable 75% of the time. Okay.
How about you, Joe? If you change the wording of my hypothetical, would the number go down?
80.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of more in line with I feel like if I get a submission back with 50 card, you know, we'll say 100 cards, I'll think that, yeah, maybe 15 to 20 are like I'm puzzled by.
And you've done a lot of those videos.
Yeah, or it's probably more like 10 to 15, I would say. I'm probably puzzled by. And then go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
But sometimes you're very puzzled.
Yes, that's true. By the way, 10 to 15 out of 100 is too many. Like, I mean, that's a lot. But
agreed. Agreed. Here, MG says, doesn't the government only look at monopolies where the product is a necessity? Pretty sure collectibles would not fit that bill. Yeah, don't know the answer to that. Chris says, you just said it. That's a self-imposed wait time. Like, I think my ComC thing, that's a choice. Others aren't giving any choices. No, but you're signing up for it. Like, you signed up for that. You know what you're getting with PSA. Wait times maybe longer than advertised, but again, keep on using them, guys. Like, it's great for them. It's great for secondary PSA secondary market slab buyers, because again, we're getting the benefit of everyone who's paying those fees for the insurance policy, which again, I'm grateful for. But yeah, you're not given the choice. You are given the choice. You don't have to use PSA. So you are given the choice. And again, I'll just come back to, you kind of know what you signed up for. But if PSA is your only option, then no, you're not given a choice there for sure. Mike Ham says PSA changed their grading scale and lied about doing it until they admitted it. It's funny how we like being lied to and it's okay.
Yeah.
He goes on to say the registry has been pushed to the side. I mean, they haven't updated the tech on that thing in a long, but I feel like I recently heard
that's true.
Nat or Ryan say they were going to do something with it, which would be great.
It needs an overhaul, the set registry.
Yeah. Chris says you don't have access to the most important thing that is the emotional state of the person grading your card, and that's a big issue for sure.
Wait,
go ahead, Chris.
I wanted to go back to the they've changed, and Joe, you mentioned this earlier too, that they've changed their standards over time, which I think we all agree with at this point, right? Nobody's debating that anymore, I assume. I actually think that the industry changed the standards and they changed their scale to match the industry, but I do agree that they weren't open about it. They kept saying like, we haven't changed our standards, which is obviously BS. But I don't think they changed the standards. I think we changed the standards. We became stricter as collectors. Because I remember in the 90s, like nobody nobody cared about gem mint versus mint, or we just became a lot stricter. Like a card would be 70-30 and you would call it mint in the 90s or the 80s, and over time we've become stricter and stricter, and I think they adjusted to that, but they weren't open about it. What do you agree with that, both of you?
That's interesting. I've never thought about them adjusting to us, because that would make us the experts and not them. But hey, if that, I haven't thought about that much, Chris. I guess it's possible, but I find it really, if they care that little about all the people out there that own all those historical slabs only to devalue what we hold, because that's what it's doing, right? Because of course we assign so much value to PSA slabs. If they are now changing their standards to satisfy the public, they are basically alienating every card they've ever graded up to that point, and saying to you, the customer, we do not stand behind what we did before. We are now changing our ways. And listen, I think in a way they have to do that anyway. Like I'm not against evolution, but they have this guarantee in place. Yeah. Do they now owe everybody something because the cards graded in the 1990s and the 2000s would not hold up to today's standards? So now they have a massive contingent liability on their books, which becomes hugely problematic, especially if they want to IPO.
Agreed. I think it's I do think it's a tricky spot that they're in, because if you go back to if you went back, like the Chamberlain is a bad example because that's so off-centered. But if you went back to the 90s and you found a card that was graded in like 1995 and it's in a mint 9 holder, and you look at it today and you're like, that's not a mint card. Back in the 90s, it probably was a mint card. And so that's what my point is. Like, we've changed. So what do they do? Because you're right, it causes a problem. If they do change their scale, it devalues all these older cards, which is a total screw to a lot of people. But at the same time, they got to keep up with the time. So it's one where I sort of give them a little bit of a pass on. Although I just wish they were more open about it, which they clearly weren't. Yeah,
fair. Joe, anything before I go to more comments?
I guess what goes through my mind are the different metrics that the different grading companies use, and how the shift in the hierarchy of grading in terms of, PSA emerging to be in the vanguard of, grading leading standards. It's hard to have another grading company be more stringent than you are if you are in theory in the lead. And so I think they felt pressured there. And I agree, Chris, that it's in some ways the audience and or the consensus of collectors sort of weighing in and saying like, wait, we are anointing you the preeminent grading company, and in doing so, you ought to have the standards that are at the highest level.
Yeah.
Mike Ham here says most registries are now void with the new grading scale. We just saw an example with the Wilt Chamberlain.
What does that mean? They're void?
Well, I think what he's saying is that PSA 10 Chamberlain is now not a PSA 10. I think he's saying that the grades aren't valid. I think he's saying not every grade ever awarded by PSA, but I think he's saying that, hey, if a PSA 10 Wilt Chamberlain can change grades, then many other cards that are holding that 10 grade and the points that are weighted to 10s on the registry are suspect now. Are they worthy of that grade?
They're probably a lot of them are.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
David Chase here says, I disagree with the cracking numbers. I think Kurt's card juice is on a lot more cards than we all realize. But yeah, the only thing there is that you can use Kurt's card juice on previously on raw cards as well. But I hear what you're saying, David Chase. Mike Hamill says most pop counts are inaccurate due to cracking and regrading. Right, phantom pops. There's a ton that just don't exist. They're like ghosts. They're in the population, but they are not. They're not there.
I did a video on this once. There's a bunch of cards where there's the pop counts higher than the serial number. So the gold refractor to LeBron, I think it's like a pop 60 and it's serial numbered out of 50.
Well, his ultimate collection rookie card, his 03 ultimate autograph rookie, is out of 250. There's like 350 in the global population.
Okay.
So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier when Chris mentioned that he doesn't necessarily think that it's as massive as we all think. And I think it's the cards that are incentivized to be cracked.
Yeah. Right. That's fair. Yeah.
Which does actually represent a very, small, minuscule amount of cards when you think about the magnitude of, the paper, 2018 Trouts or whatever. I mean, it's like I agree with your original statement, but I think it benefits from us thinking about there are probably some cards that are getting cracked and cracked and cracked. And
yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah. It's not the 2018 Topps Chrome Ronald Acuna base cards where the pop counts way off, but it's all the high end LeBrons and the Jordans and you're right. Totally right.
Absolutely. Vintage says it's almost impossible to cross a BGS SGC to equal PSA. Zero chance they will combine the registry. They don't view the grades as equal now. Back in the late 00s, early 2010s, I used to take BGS 95s and cross them to PSA, and they crossed every single time. They crossed for me back then. Now I haven't tried it in years. My understanding is that they don't cross anymore. Vintage is saying this here. So they used to cross. PSA used to consider a BGS 95 to be gem mint. Now they don't. That's all inconsistencies. Yeah. Mark Stein says PSA is the mindless lowest common denominator brand. They will be displaced one day. Could be. Yeah. Mookie, oh my God, Jeremy is such a 38 precisionist. Yes, I am, Mookie. Yes, I am. Jayhawk.
Wait, is that what you? I don't think I knew that. Is that what you scored?
I'm a precisionist. I'm 38. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Jay, which is the same as Mookie. Mookie and I.
You and Mookie lined up. Yeah.
I think it's Mookie. Yeah, pretty sure it's Mookie and I ended up on as the same score. I believe.
And you felt, what did Joe score? Or
Joe was a 40, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, 40. So you guys are pretty in line.
We are pretty close. Yeah, me and Mookie are both 38s, and there's Adam H as well scored 38.
Okay.
Okay, Jayhawk here says, isn't it a bit sad how much time we all obsess over the opinion of a 20-something-year-old bro after spending 30 seconds looking at a card? Does anyone ever stop and think?
Sometimes you put it in perspective like that, and it's like, yeah, he's right.
Greg from Midlife says, We became stricter in grading because the hobby wanted differentiation in the junk wax era. Condition scarcity solved that issue for many.
Yeah, totally agree.
Makes sense. Petty says, I'm going to start sending all my old slabs in for a new grade review, hoping to get lower grades and money. I want to use my insurance. Yeah, you have it. Don't forget, you all are carrying PSA insurance in all your slabs, unless you're the submitter. That's what, if you submitted cards to PSA, you are not covered by their guarantee.
Wait, explain that to me, because I don't actually, I'm sure you have, but I don't actually know what you're referring to.
So if I submit cards to PSA,
yeah,
and they send them back to me and they slab a counterfeit or they misgrade it, they don't cover me for my, I can't send. The whole thing, Chris, is that if I send in a really good counterfeit and they grade it for me, and then I send it back and say, hey, you graded a counterfeit, I want market value, they're going to say, well, you submitted the counterfeit, we're not going to pay you off. Okay. So the guarantee only applies to a secondary buyer. It doesn't apply to the submitter. That's why I say thank you for paying these upcharges, because you are covering anyone who's buying those cards on the secondary market.
Oh, I see. So if you submit a card and it's a counterfeit and you go back and you say, give me my money, so well, you submitted it. But if you sell it to me and I buy it for $100 and it's a counterfeit, I can go to them and say, hey, I bought this counterfeit that you said was good, so give me $100. And
yeah, and I think they will try to make sure that you're not in collusion with the submitter. Like they might go that, I think they will go that far to, like, they'll want to see where you bought the card.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, you're right. So you're right. The person who buys the slab is actually insured, but not the submitters.
The submitters pay our lifetime insurance.
Yeah. Okay.
Our PSA insurance, which is like, again, I'm looking for volunteers to pay for my automotive and my home insurance. I mean, you're all volunteering to pay for my car, my sports card insurance. Why don't you pay my automotive and my home insurance too? Like, if anyone out there want to do that, I mean, there are some suckers out there. Maybe you want to, like, I'll take it.
Jay Lee,
of course. Yeah, it's tongue in cheek, of course, Chris, but you get the point.
Yeah, I got it.
Joe,
I believe it was a Jordan card, and I guess in some ways I'm going to ask the question that if the answer is not what I think it is, you'll be unable to answer. Did you have to sign a non-disclosure when you accepted the insurance money for the PSA slab that you were compensated for? And if you say I can't comment on that, I will understand your meaning.
I don't remember if I had to agree to anything on that. I just don't remember. It's possible, and if I did, but I don't remember, Joe.
I'm asking because I watched Neo's exposition on the Chamberlain today, and one of the points he made is that there may be a non-disclosure when you do take cash in, and so if that's the case, we may never hear the sort of resolution of whether or not somebody that moved this from a 10 to a 9 slab was compensated by PSA. I mean, it's an interesting question.
Well, that's a question I have, and I think some people have as well, which is the card went from being worth about $950K to about $150K. That's an $800,000 decline in value. But the lifetime guarantee that any single human is eligible for with PSA is $500,000, and the maximum per card is only $250. And what I've seen said is that according to our terms and policies, we have compensated the owner. Okay, well then he only got $250. Those are your terms and policies. Your terms and policies clearly say two. Now there might be an out for them to, or at our discretion. Maybe it says that, I don't remember. And if it does, maybe they compensated this guy the whole $800K. It's a big chunk of dough to write for to cut for a mistake that was made.
Did we hear from the owner? I mean, or maybe what you're saying is the owner's not allowed to say.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Well, I mean, and again, I don't want to. I mean, go watch Neo's drop. It was very interesting. He couched everything with the big asterisk that he was speculating, which is all we can do because we don't have all the data. But is PSA incentivized to get a clearly, by today's standards, and a very important PSA 10 Chamberlain rookie out of a PSA 10 slab because it's a pockmark on on their brand, if you will.
It is.
Well, yeah, you'd think they would be, but here's where I kind of falter. I mean, this is only one example. This thing was offered, I think it was sold by Heritage when it was sold, I believe. And I wasn't the only one talking about how overgraded it was. So people know that card was overgraded. Other cards are clearly overgraded by PSA. I see them every week. So is that a big enough reason for them? They want to get it out because it's an embarrassment to the brand. I mean, you have to look no further than the 000000001 card. That's 7 zeros and a 1, which their whole brand was almost built on, and that card is trimmed, and they haven't done anything with that. So
didn't they offer that? Didn't they? Or what? I thought they offered the guy to change it, or like I don't remember.
Maybe they did, but to me, if they really want to protect their brand and really just put their money where their mouth is and really stand by the brand and their product, they would decertify it without his permission. Why do you need his permission? It's your slab. It's your opinion. It's not his opinion. He might say, I'm keeping the slab. I'm not giving it back to you, PSA. Fully in his right, but they should at least decertify it if it's wrong.
Okay. Well, with the Chamberlain, I totally think it's in their best interest to get that out of a 10 holder. That's what you were saying, right, Joe? I completely agree with that. And I don't, whatever their policy says, they should just pay the guy fairly. That would be the smart business move, reputation wise. I don't know how it planned. I don't know what they did, but that seems like a no brainer to me. I imagine $800,000 would not impact their bottom line over the course of a year.
It does open up the door, though, Chris, don't you think? Like everyone else on the set registry, although people don't want to lose their 10s, so they may not be as forthright as the owner of this card. If he's being forthright, he or she, we don't know.
Which gets to the non-disclosure, right?
God, that's messy. You're right. That's a good point. That gets messy.
It's messy. It is definitely messy. Mookie has a great point, though. He says in the 90s, the only mints I cared about were Altoids. Mints, as in mint.
Yeah, junior mints. No, Mentos were crushing it in the 90s.
Absolutely. And Dave Snyder has something for you. Chris, have you ever seen blue line test sheets, maybe rarer than an uncut sheet? Could Dallas get a PSA submission center? And thank you, Dave Snyder, for the super chat. Much appreciated. Chris, have you ever seen blue line test sheets?
I don't know what that is.
I feel like I've heard about it. I think something other than an uncut sheet, but I don't know either. Could Dallas get a PSA submission center? I think that's a guarantee at this point, as long as the sale goes through. I think that's a guarantee, Dave Snyder.
Is the sale not official? Like it's just announced? I assumed it was
Well, it's being challenged. I think it's being challenged by Congress, or by the FTC, I believe. So, again, this is all pretty new. This news with the Congressman Pat Ryan of New York. But I think the answer is absolutely, David Snyder. Dallas could, will probably. It's probably are going to be up and running on Monday, sort of thing at this point.
Yeah. What time is it?
Right. I would say so. Okay, some questions about the Hobby Spectrum in the chat really quick. You can go to thehobbyspectrum.com, add your name and email to the wait list, and we will get you an access code soon. It is sort of beta, and the reason it's a slow onboard is because we're making changes regularly right now, and a lot of these changes would want to cause people who are already on the Spectrum to go back and update some things in their profile. And just for an example, I'll show you guys something really cool here. I don't even know if you've seen this, Chris, or even you, Joe, for that matter. But if I show you this is the directory. This is Jeremy Lee, my tile in the directory, and we just added all these icons here for other platforms. So if you come to the directory and you find me, you can click to my YouTube. My Instagram, my YouTube, my Twitter, my Facebook, my TikTok, my LinkedIn, my Apple Pod, my Spotify Pod, my ComC port, my Card Ladder Showcase, my card post profile, my mantle profile. There are more available. A few people have really filled, like Mike Summer has several of them linked in. So the directory becomes a tool of discoverability. You can add links. So, Jeremy, the Texas Snowman, for example, Chris, he could come on here and he could have a link to CIA auctions. You could do that for if you wanted to as well. Put your YouTube channel on. When you joined it, Chris, we did not yet have the my profile, which allows you to now go in and update your profile. Another cool thing we added were these you can now sort by score, and you can go back and forth. You can sort by join date. See, I was the first to join. You can see who the latest to join is, bat knob cursive right there. You can also just, you can do this too. You can be down here and you can click on precisionist. It'll give you all the precisionist, clear all. You can click on 33. It gives you all the 33s, clear all. And then of course you can search, you can find people hey, there's our buddy Double D Dylan. I can come here and I can click on YouTube as Apple or as Spotify. We've got, where's Greg? Greg is somewhere here down. He was early. Greg's right here. So Greg, you can come in. Oh, he's got the other link to Sports Card Clubhouse, which I happen to have open. Where is it? I had it open somewhere. Where'd my Sports Card Clubhouse go? I must have closed it by accident, but I had it open. But you can click on that and it takes you to Sports Card Clubhouse website directly. So the Spectrum is becoming a discoverability tool in addition to a self-discovery tool about your own collector identity. So guys, by the way, check out our buddies at Sports Card Clubhouse. They've got all sorts of features here on the site. You can access all of their content. They do a vote. They're going to be doing polls every so often. You can see their partners. Hey, there's Chris Sewell right there because they're sponsored by Collector Investor.
It's all connected. It's all connected.
All connected. You got a feed which will take you to all of their content. The guys, it's Mike from Junk Wax Hero. It's Greg from Midlife, and it's Adam as well.
We're the monopoly. We're the monopoly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's a link right to the Sports Card Clubhouse YouTube channel. You can go to their podcast. So this is what you can see on the Sports Card Clubhouse. But if you're on the Hobby Spectrum, you come here, you click on anyone's tile. I'll look for someone who has a few. So Eric Andrews, you go there and here's all of his social media. And now another cool thing for people who are on, when you click on your own, you can now go right here to edit your profile. So Ed Snyder right here, the second guy ever on the Spectrum. He is the guy who's built this for me through Inferno Red Technologies. He's a lead developer there, and he's built this, done just a killer job. And couldn't be happier with what they've done and help bring this idea to life. So
yeah, I think Greg, I was watching their podcast, Greg and Junk Wax Mike. I think they were the same score, or weren't they? I'm looking at your registry now. I think they had the exact same score.
Yeah,
18 and 19. They were off by one.
Right, they're one off of each other. That's right. They're one off of each other.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm feeling kind of looking over this thing. I'm feeling kind of lonely being in the 60s. Like the 30s and 40s is where it's really at.
Well, that's where it's really I like to say that there's no like a score of 5 is no better or worse than a score of 95. Like it doesn't matter. It is what it. The other thing is that we couldn't get it implemented yet, but we're going to just before the new year. You're only going to be able to retake it once every 30 days. Yeah. So that way, because we change. So you can update your score every 30 days if you want. If you haven't done it for a while, we might add something in that kind of shows that it's like out of date sort of thing. I'm not yet sure how we're going to handle that, but you can update it every 30 days and see how you progress. And then there's all sorts of other layers, add-ons, modifiers to it. Because right now, if you go to there's the 7 archetypes, but guys, let's be real. There's 1 million plus ways to approach the hobby, not only 7. This is your core archetype. And eventually, over time, we're going to add several modifiers to it, which will further granularize your hobby identity, who you are as a collector. So that's all coming. I got some big ideas coming is what I got lots of ideas for it. So I'm hoping that people like it. And so far I will say that everyone who's let me know has said that they feel like the results are correct and they really resonated with them. So that's great to hear. Joe?
What happens when you take a second test? Does it get replaced? Does your first test get replaced, or do you get a second avatar?
No, it overrides the current one. But if you look at your profile, it'll log your whole history. So they don't disappear on you. So you can see how you are progressing. But this is not the hobby spectrum, in my opinion, is not about like, here's sort of the spectrum itself visualized from purist all the way to tycoon. It's not about moving laterally up or down the spectrum. I mean, unless you want to, it can be aspirational, but because there's really it's not meant to become something where you're competing for a higher or a lower score. There is a way, and there is one of these modifiers is coming, which will help separate people that are within the same archetype, even in addition to by score within the archetype. And by the way, like the archetypes are about 14 points each. It's like if you divide 100 by 7, it's 14.267 or something like that. So, So anyway, last thing I'll say about it for now is, as you see on the ticker, if you go to the hobbyspectrum.com, you can get on the wait list, and we are sending out access codes as fast as possible, but also trying to kind of do it slow so that we're not having to make people aren't having to come back and make too many changes. Although you're welcome to come back, obviously. So, but it'll be open to the public completely by like probably February. I would say you won't need a code, but you can get codes. Just get on the wait list.
Joe, don't you just love the passion in Jeremy's voice when he's talking about this? It's cool.
And I mean, I've been along for the journey. This is not just a flight of fancy. This is something that he's been, internalizing, reflecting on for, I don't know, Jay Lee, upwards of 6 to 8 months. I don't know.
I think I started the idea. I think I had the kernel of the idea in like late April, and I think I started down the path in early May. And I let a couple people know about it in like June, and kind of started getting some opinions. And then like, does this make sense, sort of thing? Do you think the hobby would like this? And then it was August when I met the developers from Inferno Red Tech. If you listen to Brett McGrath, Stacking Slabs, he does episodes with Inferno Red Technologies. They sponsor his channel or his podcast, and he does podcasts with Scott Locke, who's the CEO. I think he's like a co-founder and CEO of Inferno Red Technologies. He had Ed on. Ed's my guy who built this thing. He's had Ed on. If you guys want to meet the people or hear the people who are building platforms in our hobby, they work on big companies. So it's a miracle they accepted my project, but you can listen to Brett. First of all, if you're not listening to Stacking Slabs, you're missing some great content. But also he has on the developers. So so I gave them all the documentation in August, and then met with them a couple times a month in the last few months, and they were ready to launch the MVP here about 2 weeks ago now, whenever that was, Joe. So yeah, you've been on the ride with me, helping me, talking about it and stuff. So, but yeah, get on the wait list, guys. There's the wait list is pretty big, I will say, but it's not too big that you won't get a code within the next. Could be about 10 days, I would say. So anyway, get on there, and I promise we'll get you on, and I do appreciate that. I appreciate that. Linda's first says, looks awesome. Ross Iwaj says, MySpace. I never used MySpace, so I can't speak to it. Michael Thomas says, love watching y'all each week. Informative and open discussions. As a collector, I thank you. Well, thank you. 35 Auburn, who I interact with mostly on Twitter and here. Collectors are the experts is true. Humorously, in a fake PSA slab court case, there's an argument over the witness. Government claims the PSA employees, including head graders, are non-experts. Yeah, that is humorous. Greg says he's added all of his links to his profile on the Spectrum. Dan's Vintage. Jeremy, you need to add Friendster and CompuServe screen name. I don't even know what CompuServe screen name is, but hey, we can add more, guys. We will add more. Like, this is meant to be inclusive and a discoverability tool, really. Chrissy added his links. Awesome. Mark Stein, can we add our OnlyFans? No. Waxback Wisdom. I just added more of my. Oh, so awesome. I'm glad. Yeah, go in. If you're watching, you haven't go in. You can now add more of your links, guys. So please go do that. We need to add a link to the Spectrum, Jay Lee. If you're talking about on the Sports Card Clubhouse, please do, Greg. That would be awesome. What is Boozle's score? Dan says Boozle is 99 for 99 problems. Mookie, I heard Mike cheated off of Greg. Good stuff.
Yeah, the test is pretty hard. Like, yeah.
Well, first of all, let me just. It's funny. You use the word test. I heard Greg on his podcast with Mike called it a quiz. I don't consider it to be a test nor a quiz. It is. I don't even like the word survey so much. It's an assessment. It's placing you somewhere on the collector investor spectrum. And again, I only came up with the idea because I've sat here in front of the audience for 5 years saying things like, guys, we have investors here, collectors here. We're all somewhere in between on this collector investor spectrum. And one night I'm like, why don't I take it out of the abstract and build a framework around that idea? And that's what I went and did. And now it's available to everybody. So, well, on the wait list, of course, for now, but it will be very soon. So, okay, lots of comments here, guys, and appreciate all of that, of course. Dan says, breaking news, Hobby Spectrum has been purchased by Collectors Inc.
That'd be cool.
Well, that'd be cool. That might be cool for my pocketbook. Would it be cool for the hobby? I mean, I want to say to you guys, I promise I will never sell the Spectrum to Collectors Inc. But
can I ask the chat a question, or you, Jay Lee, or Chris, either of you? And it's not. I don't mean this to come across in any way that's not supportive of the Spectrum, because I know it's coming from a very genuine place. But I'm curious, because of the public nature of the where you place on the Spectrum, I wonder if the stigma that we sometimes have with flippers creates some degree of bias and or calculation, or even just human beings don't always necessarily self-report accurately, especially if they know their assessment is going to be public. And I wonder, I mean, obviously, Chris, you do this for a living, so there's no stigma for you being in a more middle area. But I wonder with our hobby friends, and especially in this particular community that I think prioritizes the collector over the investor, I just wonder if there's any thought around that.
Yeah, I've certainly thought about that, Joe. It's a great topic. It's a great point to bring up. And okay, sorry, before I answer that, I'm just going to bring Leighton on because he's in the back. So Leighton, we'll bring you on. You good?
Did Leighton take the test?
Leighton has not that I know of yet.
Leighton, he might win. He might have the highest score.
He might win. Have you taken the assessment, Leighton?
No, but I was just thinking about the Seinfeld episode where I think George is taking an IQ test and he gets Elaine to take it for him by handing it out the window. And it's an insane episode. If you've never seen it, it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well, hello, Leighton. Welcome. And Leighton's just here to say hi and happy
holidays, guys.
Happy holidays, Leighton. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Okay. So just hang tight. Let me just answer that question that Joe asks. I think it's so important. So first of all, it says, when you are reading the guidance to complete the assessment, it says, like, be honest with yourself. Of course, it's hard to just, okay, he said, be honest. I'm not necessarily going to be honest. That's fine. I almost feel like maybe we have to, you look at it, someone scored a 40, they're probably a 45 in all, for all intents and purposes. I had one person write to me today after taking it and saying that, I found myself struggling between picking the answer of who I ideally want to be versus what I'm really doing today in the hobby. And I said, that is a challenge, and answer as best you can. Really listen, is it an exact science? Probably not, but it's going to be, I think, as the best indicator we have out there right now. Anyway, so the other thing is, if you are a true tycoon or even an operator, and we don't have a single one, there's 75 people or so on there right now, not a single operator or tycoon, maybe they don't want to come on and do it. And that's fine too. You don't have to do it, of course. But if you're not doing it, there might come a point where people know he's not on the spectrum. Oh, he's a he's a tycoon then. If it's almost like, why is that card not graded? Well, because there's something wrong with it. Why aren't you on the spectrum? Well, because you're a tycoon. I would love for it to get to that point. But there's that sort of thing at play as well, Joe. And then it was Mike Junkwax Hero who said, and he was the first podcast to talk about this, where he said, I would love it if I went to the National and it just said, I'm a nostalgic, 19 nostalgic. And then I go to the vendor booth, and because the vendors often think you're buying things just to flip them, so they don't want to give you a good deal. But if they knew that you were a nostalgic or a purist, maybe even a precisionist, maybe even a hybrid, they would just say, yeah, you're not a tycoon or an operator. So maybe the tycoons and operators wouldn't want that on their badge at the National, but that's fine. So you raise a great point, Joe. Then as far as the transparency of putting yourself out there, first of all, the only people that can see the directory are people who are in the system, at least right now. And then the other thing is, we always talk about transparency in the hobby. As a content creator who's out there, I think that transparency is important. So I'm going to make myself as transparent as I can be. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is through the spectrum. The other way is, if you go to my Instagram profile, there's a right on my profile, it says, for a list of all partners and sponsors, go to check out the website, and you can see everyone that I'm, in bed with, if you will. So I'm all about the transparency. And hey, we always talk about transparency. How about looking at ourselves for transparency? We can maybe lead by example. So all that I think about. How was that for a reply, Joe? Did that kind of hit the spot for you, or what do you think?
Totally. I mean, I think it's an interesting question, even outside of your the Spectrum project, in so much as, do we stigmatize people who are doing this for a living? Do we stigmatize people who are fueling their own hobby interests by doing some flipping? I've had many transactions where somewhere along the way, usually after the transaction's over, I might mention like, hey, this is for my PC. This is such a great addition. Thank you so much for helping me get this card. And the seller will say, that makes me so happy to hear, because I think there is this experience of people not wanting to feel like they're selling something only for someone else to make money off of their sale. So, these are all things that kind of go in my mind around not just the Spectrum, but really kind of the hobby we're in and how we understand each other and ourselves.
Yeah. Before we go back to Leighton and hear a bit from him, I just want to, USMNT says social credit score for sports cards. We've reached the end of time, folks. No, the social credit score for sports cards are your subscriber numbers, your follower numbers, your likes. That's what, and even USMNT, I believe this is a USMNT has a YouTube channel. I don't know. I've never watched it if he does, but I believe, and if you're putting yourself out there, anyone with any social presence is striving for a social credit score. The hobby spectrum is not about a social credit score. You can see it. I mean, I guess you can look at it that way, but like I said, 95 is no better than 5, 60 is no better or worse than 20. It's just being honest about how you're approaching the hobby at any given time. So Ben, it's not going to be for everybody, especially if you have something to hide. And we'll see if USMNT joins or not. Maybe he has something to hide. I don't know. Leighton, guys, we're just going to switch because Leighton's just here for a short time tonight. And I just want to, I want to thank you, Leighton, for coming on throughout the year. Sports Cards Live. Love your insights. Love our friendship. Thank you for supporting the channel over the years, being a great collaborator. Our Vintage Spotlight podcast, we're going to have another one coming out in January, everybody. If you're not yet subscribed to that, please check that out. We love doing that show. It's so much fun. There's a podcast and a YouTube channel. So Leighton, I want to say thank you for everything, buddy. It's been great just building our friendship and relationship over the past several years now, and looking forward to many more years of friendship together. So happy holidays, New Year's to you. And anything you want to mention, or you're welcome to hang out as long as you want, by the way, you know that. But I just want to thank you. Sure I got my thank yous in.
Well, first, I really appreciate it. Right back at you, Jeremy, and Chris and Joe. It's been great, and all the other guests. I enjoy it thoroughly. But you asked a very important question, I think, Joe, just a few minutes ago. Have I taken the test? And I've not. but I do plan to study very hard. And I really hope to achieve baseball card tycoon. I don't actually know what that means because I don't know all the nuances yet. But to me, it would mean to be able to buy and sell cards, but actually take away the selling. I would just buy, and I would never like. What was the guy's name on DuckTales? The guy who didn't give away his money, but I would have all the cards, and I would share them. Like I would let you look at them, but you couldn't have them, and I wouldn't sell them. So that's the way I would look at a baseball card tycoon. But anyway, I'm really excited to take the test. I've been studying hard, so I'll let you know when Jeremy allows me to take it. Yeah, listen, I wanted to say or share similar sentiments in that it's been a really fun show. Sometimes it's kind of like our escape from all the chaos. Sometimes, candidly, it's jumping into the chaos. If I may be so frank, over the last year, but that's the way the hobby is, and so it's important to report, kind of like on what's going on. As far as I guess what I wanted to share is I brought a couple cards that I put in my PC this year that came from, I think, two different collection buys. One was from, like one that they contacted our office and, and our team. And the other one was we bought, I think, a collection at a show, and this was just in it. And I wanted to share both if we had a minute.
Yeah, we all love seeing cards like that. That's what we don't get enough of here sometimes is cards. So let's see some cards.
Great. Well, I figured, it's like the end of the year. Why not show some cards? So I started collecting Mordecai Three-Finger Brown this year, and we bought a great, fantastic Tito 6 graded collection where the collector put it together, many years ago, and he really focused on eye appeal. So I'm trying to stay away from the glare. And, this one only being technically graded a 4.5, I can tell you I've seen a lot of older graded Tito 6s, and this one stands pretty well as far as the actual technical grade goes. But I really like the way that it looks. I always love the red background. And so this will be in my PC, I would imagine for some time to come. And then believe it or not, the other card I have is to share is modern. So the guy walks up to the booth, I think at the Philly show, maybe a couple of Philly shows ago, and a bunch of vintage, but some modern. And I was going to ask Chris, or to be fair, you, Jeremy, or anyone else is out there, have you ever been in a spot where, let's just say you buy vintage, and the guy brings up, or the gal brings up some vintage, and they got some modern, they might even have a Barbie doll, and you're looking at, you're like, wow, it's a Jabbar rookie, it's a couple mantles. You're like, great, I'll take all the cards. They're like, no, you got to buy the Barbie and you got to buy the hockey stick. I'm like, okay, you're starting to make me feel uncomfortable, but okay. So this guy, you couldn't make me feel any more uncomfortable because he takes out some modern. You can comp an Ohtani PSA 10, and then he goes, I have a 1 of 1. And I'm like, oh. I tell you what, I said, I didn't even know what it was at that point. I said, how about this? You hang on to it. I'll just buy everything else. He goes, I told you, I want to sell everything at once. I'm like, all right, sure, we'll try. So this is what it was. And as you can tell, we got the deal. So it's a Topps Archives 2017, but in the style of 84 Topps, Derek Jeter 1 of 1 autographed. And so for me growing up, I was a big Donnie baseball fan and still am. And my first important card, I can tell you the first card I spent over $10 on. It was 1984 Topps Don Mattingly, number 8. I bought it from the Rudy Teen Flea Market from Fred DeBella. I can tell you all the circumstances. I paced around the place several times before executing the transaction. And I think my mom was about to give me up for, just give me away because she was really upset. So anyway, the guy's telling me 93 different ways he can comp the card. I don't know if any of you know anything about Archives baseball 1 of 1s, but apparently there's a lot of them. So I begged and pleaded with him to not sell me the card. And then we were close enough. I said, listen, I'm not going to sell the card. Can we try to reach a deal for everything? And we did. So I'm not selling the card. I'm thrilled with the 1 of 1. And then the last card, this is not for me, but this is kind of indicative of where we are in the vintage grading space. But it's this 1958 Topps Ted Williams Teddy Ball Game. It's the number 1 card in the set. And I got to tell you, I've been grading cards for years. Back in the day, this is a solid 4 or 5. It got a 3. And so I thought to myself, I'm not really collecting 58 Topps, and I'm not really interested in selling it. I wanted it to find a good home. So Jeremy, I've seen you do this in the past. where you like pull up some sort of ticker. Anyone who's tuned in gets a chance to win the card. So that's my little holiday gift to everyone. Well, to be fair, to one person. I can't give a 58 Topps Ted Williams to everyone. This is not Oprah and everyone gets a car. But we can give away to one person one 1958 Topps Ted Williams PSA 3 that back in the day would have graded a 4 or 5. I think you'll be thrilled with it. Jeremy, if you can give it away, that'd be great. And if not, you give it away, in the next show.
Let's give it away right now.
Sounds great, Oprah.
Okay, guys. Okay. Stop the comments for a second, everybody. Because I'm gonna put something on the screen. You're gonna do. It's gonna be a hash. You're gonna have to type in hashtag and a word. And the word, just because it's the guy on the screen, is going to be Leighton. Type in hashtag.
Teddy would have been fine, but I'm thrilled to have my name. That's great.
We'll go
well, good luck, everybody. It's my little way of saying thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Whoever gets the card is going to really enjoy it. It's got great eye appeal for the grade.
That's amazing, Leighton. Thank you so much for contributing that to the Sports Cards Live community. Guys, if you want a chance to win this card, you have to type in to the chat right now, hashtag Leighton. That is LEIGHTON. Unlike the way that, who did I see spelt it wrong? Someone's Lincoln Thomas spelt it wrong. So that's not going to register. It's not LAY. Leighton's name is LEIGHTON. Get your entry in, guys, because we're going to let this run for just a short time here, Leighton.
Yeah, Jeremy, whoever wins, if you want, you can just connect me with them direct, and we're happy to ship it to them on Monday.
Yeah, whoever does win, you can send me an email. You can just email, and I'll put that on the screen, but you can email sportscardsliveshow@gmail.com. Sportscardsliveshow@gmail.com to the, well, we'll talk to the winner in a few minutes here, but let's just let's let those let's let the entries keep rolling in, because a few people watching will be a couple minutes behind, because they're behind in just watching the show. So we'll get there. But Leighton, that's so awesome. Thank you. Are you sticking around for a bit now, or are you going to hop off?
Oh, I was going to hang out for a few minutes, with you guys and see what you're chatting about, and take it from there.
All right, cool. Well, in that case, I want a couple. Michael Thomas pays me a nice comment. Says Jeremy Lee has the full gambit: collector, seller, talk show host, influencer, LOL, author, and now developer, monopoly, LOL. Yeah, call the FTC on me, everybody. I'm causing big trouble over here. Justin Bode calls me the real deal. I don't know about that, but thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate that, definitely.
Wait, can I ask Leighton a question? If because I didn't know you were a Don Mattingly fan. Were you upset that Jeff Kent got in, but not Mattingly this year into the Hall?
Oh, I don't have anything against Jeff Kent, but I definitely wanted Donnie Baseball to get in, and I kind of have an agreement with a bunch of buddies that if he actually gets in, we're definitely going to go. And for those of us that have kids, we'll probably make a nice long weekend of it. And listen, there was just something about I can't speak for you, Chris, right, or anyone else out there, but if you watched, or if you had a team as a kid that was perennially bad, but they had one or two players, whether it be they performed well and or you just admired their energy and their effort. Well, like for me, that's what everything was wrapped up with Donnie Baseball, because they had a terrible team, they had no pitching, and yet the guy played like an MVP for several years in a row before his back went out. And it was him, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan growing up. Those are the three players I collected, Chris, in my binder.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I had that with Cal Ripken too. Terrible team, one great player. But when I first started collecting cards, Don Mattingly was the guy, and
he was. That was the 80s. Hard to forget those days. Yeah. Absolutely. You can only put one entry, and it won't register any more than one. You guys, just as an FYI out there. I'm showing 194 people watching right now, 170 on YouTube. And we only
can I ask Chris a question real quick?
Yeah.
And for that matter, for Chris and everyone else out there, because to me, it just stands out so sharply. So, do you guys remember, Chris, can you tell me the first card as a kid, as a collector, that you bought for over $10, like an individual card?
Ooh, for over, not specifically maybe $10. I got it was a Cal Ripken 82 Topps. I don't remember what it was, but that was like my first, this is more expensive than I should be paying for a card as a 12-year-old or whatever I was.
Totally.
Yeah, it was 82 Topps Ripken.
How about you, Joe?
I don't think it was the first card, but I was going to a couple conventions when I was about 14 years old. So this would have been around 1980. And I remember very clearly the most I had paid. I mean, I might have done a few $10, $15 ones, but it was a Roberto Clemente 1955 rookie card for $95.
Wow. And you were 14?
Yeah.
I'll give you
Props to you. That's fantastic.
And it's right now it's in a BGS 2.5 slab.
You know, by the way, Joe, I don't know if you know this, but I buy vintage cards. No, I'm just kidding.
Those are the ones that, like, anything that I got from that.
I'm not trying to buy your card. I couldn't help myself. Joe, that's amazing. So you've had it for like a long time, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, you say it's in a BGS lab? Was it BVG?
BVG, yeah. BVG.
Okay, I was thinking maybe it was like before they came out with BVG.
But a very early BVG. In fact, it might be that BVG that the serial numbers are no longer connected to the database because there was some sort of breach or something, and they lost track of it. But it was a very early BVG slab. Yep.
So it's not. So it didn't really happen.
Yeah. I worry about these things, Chris. I worry about these things.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeremy?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me because I don't really remember.
Oh, well, you have to lie then, definitely.
I mean, I remember buying a Mario Lemieux rookie card for 25 cents in 1986, which was pretty cool. But no, I remember when I kind of graduated into the real vintage collecting world was in 1989 when I bought Bobby Hull 58 Topps rookie card from Joe Daly's Sports Cards in Winnipeg for $800. And that was, all my money at the time. I was like every cent I had to my name, from shoveling walks, paper route, bus boy, whatever it was, whatever I was doing back then. So that was a big moment for me. It also put me down the path of vintage Hall of Fame collecting. I started that back in 89 after doing just sets, putting together whether it was O-Pee-Chee hockey or Topps football or even the 80-81 Topps basketball set.
Jay Lee,
yeah, I don't remember the first time I spent $10 though. Sorry, Joe.
Did you pull O-Pee-Chee Gretzky rookies out of packs?
Probably. That's all I can say. Probably back in the day. Yeah.
And what happened to those? I mean, where did those cards go that you were pulling out of packs?
When I opened my card shop in 1991, at that time I had 2 sets of every O-Pee-Chee hockey set. And what I did was to stake my claim into the business because my parents backed me at the time. What I did to stake my claim was I took my 2 sets and I put one whole set into inventory. And then the other set, I kept all the rookie cards for myself and put the rest in as commons to help other people fill their sets. So that's where a lot of my childhood cards went. And then as far as Gretzky rookies go, what I did was I always kept the best Gretzky rookie for myself. So as we had the shop, whenever a Gretzky rookie card would come in, if it was nicer than my copy, I would keep the new one and put my copy on the shelf. And I ended up at the end of that, when we closed in 94, I ended up having what I thought was the best Gretzky rookie to ever come through the store. And I kept it. And then in 2008 at the National, I submitted like most of my vintage cards to PSA at $8 a card to get graded. And my Gretzky rookie came back at PSA 7.5. And I still have that card to this day. The Lemieux that I bought for 25 cents in 86 got graded at PSA 8. And it's like my biggest selling regret because of the history I had with that copy. I sold it at the Toronto Sport Card Expo probably 10 years ago. But I didn't sell it to the first person who wanted it. I made sure it went to what I thought was a good home. I don't know who that person was, but he showed me the rest of his collection. I'm like, yeah, you can buy this card from me. I was very hesitant to sell it. But those are my stories for memories, Joanne Layton. I'm sorry, I don't remember my first $10 card. But let's do the draw because we haven't had another entry now in a couple of minutes. We have 68 entries. Everyone has a 1 in 68 chance of winning the card that Layton is generously contributing here to the Sports Cards Live community. I'm going to hit draw, you guys. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ready, set, go. We'll see where it stops.
Oh.
Remax 8,500. Joe almost pleasure point almost snuck in. Remax 8,500. Not a name I'm too familiar with, but I'm glad that this brought you out of the woodwork and into the chat. Remax 8,500. To claim your prize, you can either email me at sportscardsliveshow@gmail.com, or you can email Leighton at justcollect.com. I assume that would work for you, Leighton. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations, Remac.
Remac 8,500. Congratulations. And again, thank you to you and thank you to Leighton. That's awesome. Absolutely. Remac 8,500 with a big win. Thank you, Leighton. A couple fun comments did come through, and I'm going to get to Chris C's question in a moment. Mark Stein's first card, 64 Pete Rose for $30.
Nice.
Chris C, 89 Upper Deck Griffey for $20. Rock
Probably
Latex,
a lot of people
85.
Upper Deck Griffey. Probably a lot of people
Yeah.
have the Griffey, yeah.
Agreed.
I was what went through my head briefly when I was thinking was like the 90 Leaf Frank Thomas, because I know that that was a big one, but also
Sure.
like the O-Pee-Chee Premier Sergei Fedorov was a big card when that
Oh my
came out.
God.
You guys
Yeah, that was
remember, right?
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I had a shot. Like, I guess I spent over in the mid 80s. I was spending that kind of money on singles, going to card shops. Michael H, George Brett, 1975. That's
No, you
record
skipped
one.
over Dwight Gooden, which was a good one.
Oh, Rock Late. Rock Late, 85. Donruss, Dwight Gooden. Mookie, Dwight Gooden, 84 tops traded. Snips, the 94. A-Rod, die cut, Upper Deck foil, SP, the die cut even.
I remember that
Yeah.
card was hot.
Oh, shoot. Chris C, I had your comment, and I think your question was for Leighton, and did I lose it? I just unstarred it by accident as I was unstarring all those other ones. Chris C, I can't find the question right now, Leighton, but the question from Chris C was, why do you think the 49 Bowman, and we'll get both Leighton and Chris to answer this. Why do you guys think that the 49 Bowman Jackie Robinson is so cheap compared to the 48 Leaf Jackie Robinson? The question was directed at you, Leighton, first. So let's get your thoughts. And Chris, if you have any other answers, you feel free to chime in after. But you start talking, Leighton, to that, if you don't mind. I'm going to try and find that comment again.
Oh, sure. I mean, to be clear, if you look at the charts, and I'm not so fancy, so I can't just like pull up card ladder like that or any of that good stuff, but it's not the 49 Bowman Jackie is not as cheap as it was, even 12 or 15 months ago. And, with the book that came out and at least the hobby news, there are some folks that have kind of said, you know what? I think the 49 Bowman represents a good value for me as a collector because I'm not going to be able to buy the 48 Leaf, even with this new update, coming out. But let's be clear, and I didn't know you're going to be bringing it up. I'll take off the tag here, but I have a 49 Bowman Jackie here in a 1.5, and in a 1.5, it's got pretty good eye appeal. So you can see why this card really resonates with people. There's something kind of really beautiful about it, and it doesn't even have his name on the front, but yet it's iconically him. And so it just, I think to me, is going to continue to appreciate it. It really doesn't matter if it's his rookie or not. I guess similar to the early Mickey Mantle cards, right? I don't want to get into a whole tangent about 51 Bowman, 52 tops. It really just comes down to supply and demand. And more people 12 months ago, I believe, want the 1949 Bowman Jackie than they did before. And that causes an increase in price.
I wonder if any of it's just the aesthetic. Do people like the 48 Leaf better? I personally do. From an aesthetic, it's the one I own. I do want a 49 as well, though. I'd love to.
I love them both. It's hard to choose.
Same here. Chris, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the aesthetics was the first thing that came to me. I agree with Leighton totally. I think it's a value card for the price compared to the 48 Leaf. But I think aesthetically, I think the Leaf is generally a better looking card to most. I would also say that I consider them both to be 49. I'm wondering from 1949. So I'm wondering if you guys agree with that. But PSA is gone with the 1948, which technically makes his rookie over and would make the 49 Bowman technically not a rookie by the old definitions. So I think a lot of people view it that way, which I think is wrong. But yeah, that would be another reason.
Yeah, I think so. I hear. I agree with what you say, Chris. I think people do consider the Leaf to be a lot of people consider the 49. I know Greg on Midlife refers to it as the 49 Leaf Jackie.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
until PSA changes it, guys, remember PSA is our daddy, and if they don't change it, then what daddy says goes. So, but I want to shout out Skeppy's comment here. Says, I really like the 1950 Bowman Jackie, and so do I. And by the way, it's his only playing days card, which is a full body shot, action shot. Like there's no everything else is portrait for him for all of his.
Is that true?
Mainstreams. Yeah, all of his tops, his other Bowman.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that makes that a pretty cool card. I believe so.
Can I recommend that we title this episode "A PSA is my daddy"?
Let's have it coming out. Let's use some AI and get Pedro to say it.
Yeah. Really quick, guys. It's clever. Said Donruss Greg Maddux for him. The first over 10. Ron Figg
love that card.
was 85 tops. McGuire. Grail Hunter was a Lawrence Taylor rookie. Skeppy was the 1990 score supplemental. Mike Petty was a 52 tops for $75. 52 tops mantle, though the mail ripped off by Frank Fritsch. And Cage says the 49 Jackie gives red, white, and blue Americana baseball. It's just a beautiful card. I agree. It is just an absolutely stunning card. I, again, would love to own one of those. Go ahead. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So we have Josh and Chris McGill in the back ready to come on. I'm going to ask Joe. I know that you were on a time crunch. Are you done now?
Yeah, I can tap out. It's been such an honor to be with such luminaries, and always appreciate hearing Chris. You know, I can't get through the show without saying the Blazer division. No reference whatsoever, and eat your vegetables. And wishing you the best for your holiday season, and your family, your son in particular. Hope you share some special memories, and stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Same to you, of course.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, Joe. Talk to you soon, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Care.
Have a good rest of the night.
Appreciate it. You too.
And how about you, Leighton? Are you?
Yes, I'm gonna bow out as well. I appreciate you having me, not just today, but all year and the last several. It's been great. Chris, it's always fun connecting. And to everyone out there who's watching, really appreciate everyone tuning in, and hope you've enjoyed the hobby this year. You continue to next year, but most importantly, have a great holiday season. Happy New Year. Stay healthy. See you real soon.
Thank you, Leighton, and thanks again for the giveaway. Appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Take it easy, guys.
Neo here says, add that to the FTC letter. If that's a daddy comment, I think that's a good idea, Neo. They should add that to the FTC letter. Tops is not my daddy, says Stukes. Tony Southern, I like all Jackies, especially the ones with best wishes on them. Tony loves his baseball card. First of all, if anyone here has watched the Southern Collector YouTube channel, I have to ask you, does that theme song stick in your head all day long and drive you crazy like it does to me? I listen to that song and I'm walking around my house for the next 3 hours and I've got Tony loves his baseball card. I have that going through my head for hours after, and it's like I think I'm gonna have to start muting the intro song because
that's what an intro song's supposed to do.
Such a catchy song. He's probably got the best intro in the hobby. Tony, nothing but love, buddy. Band's vintage. Tony, yeah, you know it, Grail Hunter. You know it for sure. Okay, let's bring on Chris. You're sticking around for a bit still?
I can stick around if it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's you're welcome. Let's bring out Mr. Joshua Adams.
What's up?
What's up, buddy? And
Chris, nice to meet you. Jeremy, what's up? Chris, go Bears. Amazing.
And Chris McGill, everybody.
We had a 0.5% win probability before we recovered that outside kick.
Unbelievable. Craziest game I've ever seen. And
before we move off of this Jackie topic,
yes,
can I throw a curveball to everybody who's on the stage here? And listen, and this is coming from a guy who certainly does not specialize in Jackie Robinson cards or in cards of the era. So this question might not be phrased properly, or I might be missing something, but I want to throw a curveball here. All right. So you guys were talking about the Leaf Jackie. Okay. That has, according to GemRate, a total population of 2,860. Then we were talking about the Bowman Jackie. And that one, according to GemRate, has a total population of 2,824. So basically pop of 2,800 for each of those. But what about the 1947 Bond Bred Portrait? What about that one? That one has a population of 201. So why don't we talk about the Bond Bred? That's my question.
Jeremy, you're muted, but I can answer it. I think the 48 Leaf set's probably one of the most top 3 iconic sets in the hobby, besides T206 and 52 tops. So and Bowman, there's a run of Bowman after the 49. The 49 Leaf Jackie is, I think, by popularity because of the set. Also, the Bond Bred, I think, is considered an oddball, and I think most people who have a 49 Leaf Jackie don't know about the Bond Bred card. I think it's more like an advanced collector oddball series. That's my opinion.
I think that makes sense. It's not so much of a mainstream card, a food issue sort of thing. But Chris Sewell, what about, where do you sit on that? Why do you think we don't consider the Bond Bred? I mean, I've seen it. I believe it's a black and white. Is that right, Chris? When you're looking at it there, it's black and, is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, Joshua nailed it. It's the Leaf and the Bowman are standard issue sets. They're standard baseball issue sets with whatever, 100, 200, 300 cards, whatever is in them. The Bond Bred is an oddball item put out by a random brand. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just not as recognized or as appreciated. And it's also, I think it's oversized, right? So it's awkward, and yeah. But I want to go. Unless somebody else, I want to go back to the Bears thing. What happened in the game? I don't know what the ending was. The greatest ending of all time, and you're just going to leave that hanging?
It was.
Chris, you can handle this one.
The Bears were getting their butt kicked all game. Weren't able to get any touchdowns. Down 7. Finally got it. Another field goal. Went down 7. Less than 2 minutes left, 3 timeouts. So basically it's just a prayer. Like, we have to kick the ball off to the Packers and hope that we can stop them 3 straight times and then somehow score a touchdown in like 40 seconds or however much time we'd have left when we get the ball back. But instead we elected for the onside kick, kicked it. The Packers guy received it, fumbled it. We recovered, scored a touchdown, our first touchdown of the game in the final 2 minutes, went into overtime, stopped them on their first drive. We got the ball, scored on a 45-yard touchdown bomb, sudden death, game over. Bears went from a 0.5% win probability on that onside kick to, hopefully locking up first place in the division. So, against our hated rivals.
That is exciting.
So exciting.
A couple other things on Jackie now, guys, if I may. Dan's Vintage calls out the 55 doubleheader as a full body shot. So I just went to look at it because I wasn't familiar with it. Here's what it looks like. And I mean, but it's not him, right? You can't even see his face in it. It's a weird card. I've never seen this before. I don't even see his face on it. It's like wearing some, I don't know what's going on there. I stand corrected. It's a full body shot. And I didn't even.
55 Tops also has a full body shot. I don't think that's what you're talking about.
As a secondary image, right? Like, I mean, like the card is of him.
We're nitpicking you a little bit here.
That's fine. And hey, please nitpick away. I'm good being wrong on that. Professor, good evening and hello to you. And then Cage says, this is important. Bond Bred has several photo variations. Hard to pick one that is the card, whereas the Leaf and Bowman are standard, one image, no variations. Although I think the Leaf does have a variation in like the print, the print plates or something, but I think what Cage says pretty much holds. Stukes, I like this. Stukes, how many Jackie fans have been to Jackie Robinson Ballpark to see where the photo for the 53 Bowman color Pee Wee Reese card was taken? I have not, but that's some cool information because I love my 53 Bowman Pee Wee Reese. Tony, really interesting information, says Bond Bred goes down in American history as the first set to feature a black baseball player. It is more than just a baseball card. And if you want to put a song, just go to Southern Collector, listen to his intro song, guys. I'm telling you, it's a top 20 for sure. The collection firm says, let's not ignore the fact that like like the 86 Fleer sheet cuts, Jason Koontz has owned and likely molested more than half of the PSA Leaf Jackie Robinson slabs. Allegedly. Okay, fair. Okay.
Can I do one more piece of baseball content for the panel?
Yes.
Remember, baseball is not my lane, okay? But Ohtani getting his 4th MVP got me interested in doing some of my style of analysis of baseball. And so I went to Baseball Reference and I went to their yearly top 10 WAR rankings, wins above replacement. And I just calculated in the entire history of MLB, which players had led the whole league, not just the entire MLB, not just one of the leagues, but the whole MLB. Which player had led the MLB in wins above replacement the most times? And this is a great stat. It can be calculated retroactively. Baseball lends itself more to analysis of individual players, just because of the nature of the sport. It's a lot of one-on-one that happens in the sport, pitcher versus batter. So I looked this up, and I have the answer. I have all the research here. I could tell you everybody who's won. Let's see. This goes back to 1871. But my question to you guys is, which player in baseball history has the most wins above replacement wins? Who has led the MLB the most for the most seasons in wins above replacement?
I have my guess. I'll write it down so nobody can copy mine.
I got my guess as well. I'm probably way off. Josh, do you have a guess?
I have no idea. I'm not a big WAR fan, so I refuse to engage in.
The question is the player who's led the major leagues in WAR more times than any other.
Exactly.
It's got to be this guy.
Josh is a fan of peace. Okay, go ahead. Somebody go. Jeremy, how about you? You go first.
I wrote down Bonds.
Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds.
I got Babe Ruth.
Okay, and Chris has Babe Ruth. All right, Barry Bonds 4. He led the MLB according to Baseball Reference 4 times in wins above replacement. There are actually 4 players who have done it more. So it's great. Barry Bonds is way up there with 4, but there's actually, and then Babe Ruth has done it 6 times, which is tied for second with Walter Johnson and Cy Young. But there is one player who has 7. There's one player who has 7.
Shohei Ohtani.
It can't be.
No, not Ohtani.
Oh, not enough years.
It might be Trout. I don't. It's not Trout, but I don't
Willie
know.
Mays.
Willie
Mays 7. I thought that was so fun when I saw it. Willie Mays with 7. Then you got Babe, Walter, and Cy Young with 6. And then the 4s, you have Barry Bonds, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Rogers Hornsby, Kid Nichols, and John Clarkson. So there's everybody with 4 and up.
Those old school guys.
Yeah, old heads.
Yeah.
All right, enough baseball content for me.
Well, not quite yet. Not quite yet, Chris. First, let's just talk about the Shohei Ohtani gold MLB logo man that sold on Fanatics Premier on Thursday for $3 million. Not to be outdone, a couple days later, the dual logo man unautographed, I believe on Heritage, sold for $3.1 million, I think is the number there.
Wait, what? I knew the 3 million. What was the 3.1 million?
This one right here, 3.1 million
Kobe Jordan.
for the
Kobe Jordan. Yeah, okay.
Kobe MJ.
Yeah.
Dual non-autographed logo man, 3.1. Yeah. So on the on this card here, sold for $3 million. We saw the Paul Skeens MLB debut patch do like 1.2 million, like back in March, I believe it was. Now we've got this. Now the highest sold MLB logo man card of all time. I have to think for
it's
sure
the
in the new era.
Second highest modern baseball card sale. The Trout Superfractor is the only one higher.
Second highest ever, and I'd way rather have this than the Trout at this point. Yeah. I mean, back then you don't know, but yeah. What do we think, Chris? Chris Sewell? Start with you. What do you think about this sale at $3 million? Do you think it is, I want to say worth it? Do you think the card is worth the money? And of course, I kind of feel like I have to qualify by saying, based on where this hobby is in terms of the highest end cards and what they sell for. Do you think $3 million is a good number, a fair number for this card?
I'd rather have the 3 million cash. No, I don't. This blows my mind. I understand the Jordan Kobe That's a 20-year-old card. It's had some time to breathe. This card came out they just made it. It's a 2025 card. It just doesn't have hasn't have any time to breathe. We don't know what it's going to be. Who's going to care about it? It's a 2025. It blows my mind. I don't get it.
Fair response. And the interesting, okay, before we move on, I don't want to just sort of like move past that, because the room to breathe comment, I wonder, Chris Sewell, because this card brings something that I wonder if it needs room to breathe. It brings the logo man that he wore on the field during the season in which he won the World Series, won, I believe, MVP. It's a 1 of 1. It's on card auto. It's also, I believe, like from the first run ever of these gold logo men. I'm just going to put this question back to you, Chris Sewell. Does this card need room to breathe? It's not even a year old, but does it matter for a card of the magnet of the that features the components that it does, and is of the only person to ever be spoken of in the same sentence as Babe Ruth from the modern times? Really, does it need room to breathe, Chris?
Yeah. So to be clear, the card's awesome. The card's ridiculous. I would love it. It's one of the coolest cards I've ever seen. $3 million. I mean, pretty nuts.
And it's not even in a PSA slab, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, $3 million. Think about that.
Yeah. Josh Adams, let's go to you. What do you think when you hear about this sale?
I don't get it. You could buy that Ruth Baltimore News for $3 million. I'd rather have that. I mean, I just don't understand who's paying $3 million for a card that, like Chris said, just came out, and I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. Also, can I say something? Someone in the comments said Mays doesn't have the World Series moments like Mantle. I would say respectfully, Mays might have the most memorable, iconic catch of all time in the '54 World Series. So he definitely has the World Series moments.
Good to know. Thank you for sharing. That. Absolutely. And Chris Hoge, over to you. Someone who follows the high-end basketball market a lot closer than baseball, although you follow them all with your role at Card Ladder. What do you think about this sale and where it fits in the context of other 7-figure card sales in the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think Ohtani has become very quickly a totally different category. And I think we've seen a few players become different categories this year. I think Caitlin Clark is in a different category, for better or worse, where there will be a card of her that wouldn't reach that price if it was a card of any other player. Like when her cards first were hitting the market, there were, not that I'm like religiously against sticker autographs. I don't have any in my collection. I don't want any, but I understand there's an appeal to them. But she was having sticker autograph inserts selling for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars earlier this year. And so, there's just, she kind of like, she just has to be treated on her own terms. And Ohtani is that times 10. Like, he has a card that's 7 or 8 years into his career going for $3 million. And it's just like, I just think I think to some extent it's different buyers. I think to some, and I'm curious to see who's going to be revealed as the winner of this card. And I don't know where this card sits in his hierarchy. I would really want to construct the full checklist of every Ohtani card and, sort of survey the full landscape of what's out there, like just kind of to start calibrating. I went to Card Ladder because, like, for me, especially for Ohtani, especially for how historic and important he's becoming to baseball, that, I would want a rookie year card. I would want a 2018. And so I started looking there, and I started looking at like what does some 1 of 1s from 2018 go for? Maybe something that could fly under the radar. I saw in February of this year a 2018 Topps Chrome Update Superfractor 1 of 1 PSA 10 of Ohtani sold for $125,000. It's probably worth 2 or 3 times that now. But like I could get 6 of those or 7 or 8 of those for the price of so would I rather have like 6 or 7 or 8 rookies, superfractor autograph 1 of 1s of Ohtani from something like Topps Chrome Update or Sapphire or some of this stuff? To me, it's just like I would much rather start with the earlier cards in his catalog. But again, that's just sort of me. Like I'm not trying to pronounce any expertise on this topic. I'm just saying that's how me as a collector, with my experience and the things that I look at, that's where I start. Is like I start doing research like that, and so that's sort of how my investigation of this price would start. Is like, what's the opportunity cost of that? What else could $3 million have gotten me in the Ohtani market? And this card is very singular, right? It's got there's something special about the logo man patch that was used, and it's right from the thick of this incredible career he's having. So I get it. I get the special nature of this card. So there's some thoughts.
Yeah, good stuff. The whole like, what else could you do with $3 million in the hobby goes a long way in the discussion. I think a lot of people, I saw some people say the vintage that I could buy. For me, as I move away from collecting modern player rookie cards, which I used to do my whole life, I wanted rookie cards of every player, and I don't really care about rookie cards anymore for current players. Vintage, it's a different story for me. I like non-rookies as well, but point being is that I think this is a very special card. I love the Topps Fanatics Michael Rubin innovation that brings a card like this to life. And to me, a card of a player from the year he won a World Series, the year he won an MVP, on card auto, game worn, beautiful logo man card. The card is beautiful too. It's not which I didn't notice until Adam pointed it out on Thursday as we were doing the premiere show. This is a very nice surface. This isn't a flat surface. It's almost like hollow foil throughout the surface. So if I wouldn't, in my current situation, I couldn't buy it for $3 million, but if I was filthy rich, I'd buy this card all day long. If I had 200 million sitting around, maybe even 100, I'd buy this for $3 million as a collector, because I think Ohtani is that good and will become that important as time goes by. But I'd have to be filthy stinking rich to spend money like that. As for who bought it, I'm gonna put out there that this will end up in the Wonder Shine Index. I think it's a perfect card for that group to have purchased, because let's face it, if they bought it for $3 million, it's probably in their index, probably worth about 3.25 right now on the Wonder Shine Index, and tomorrow it might be worth 3.3. So they can, this is a perfect card for them to just tell you what it's worth.
That sounds really fun. That would be really fun to be able to do. Just tell people what your card's worth and have it be official.
Well, I don't know if you heard, Chris, but the dual logo man, the Jordan Kobe that they bought, back in the summer, that card's worth.
Oh, it's worth 16 million now.
It's worth way more than what they paid for it.
Incredible.
According to their index. So
wait, but let me just go back. So like when I say like it needs time to breathe, like this card is amazing for all the reasons you said. Agreed. But it's such a and Topps and Fanatics, they are doing really cool stuff, but it's just such a leap in terms of a modern year card sale. I think the Paul Skeens was the new record. I might have this wrong. I think the Paul Skeens was the new record for a modern year card, and it went for $1 million. And now and that seemed like insane. And now just a couple months later, this card goes for $3 million. Like the leap we're taking in the ultra modern, high end stuff is really going up too fast. Again, this card's amazing. If it sold for $250K, I mean, $250K would be like an insane sale for a 2025 card. It sold for 12 times that. So the card's amazing. The idea is amazing. The gold logo man's beautiful. The card's amazing. 101, all the things. It's got all the things that are great. But $3 million.
Well, when we went live on Thursday in the premiere show, I think it was at 1.2 million, and then it went to like 1.275. We're like, guys, it's up to 1.275.
Like, that's insane.
And then Adam says to me, Jeremy, go to the top of the auction. Something big has happened. I go, and it's up to 2.5. It was at like 2.3, and then it got another bid, and it finished at 2.5 plus the BP brought it to 3 million. And when I saw for the first time that thing had passed 2 million, like, I almost pooped my pants. Like, that was a crazy moment to see. I felt like we're witnessing history in that moment.
Yeah.
I want to just make one comparison to the Skeens card, where like Skeens is not a champion. He's maybe not the best pitcher in the league. He may not be as good of a pitcher as Shohei Ohtani is. I think there's a lot of hype. He's not on a great team. And the other thing is Ohtani has reach that exceeds North America. He has that transcendent brand and popularity that Skeens certainly does not have. I don't even think, like, different sport, but don't even think Caitlin Clark comes close to what the reach that Shohei has. So the money at $3 million compared to we've seen Caitlin Clark card sell for about $1 million. We saw the Skeens do 1.1. If Skeens, and I know Skeens was bought by Dick's Sporting Goods, it was a marketing expense. It's a very poor comp, but if you do look at that card, I think this at 3x, that is fair. I think Shohei should be more than 3x Paul Skeens. He should be 10x Paul Skeens. I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I think where you guys are all at is this is a card that just came out and it sold for $3 million. And how is that going to hold up in time? And I don't know. In hockey right now, Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks, is his RPAs that just came out are selling for more than Sidney Crosby's. Crosby's an all-timer with 3 Stanley Cups. Macklin Celebrini has 40 games under his belt, if that, in the NHL. He's having a great start to his career, but his card selling for more than Sidney Crosby's is absolute madness. And he is nowhere near a Shohei Ohtani caliber athlete to his sport, I don't think. So Shohei's got World Series, and he's got MVPs, and he's however many tool player batting.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. So all that. Okay. Sorry, Celebrini's in his second year now, so over 100 games. My bad. So it took him into his second year to be as good as he is. I think there's one guy driving that whole market. Benjamin B on Instagram seems to be driving that and bringing up the prices of some other cards with it. And I think that's going to spell trouble. A lot of people, I think, are going to be left holding the bag there, especially if they are, basing what they're willing to spend on what someone else decided to spend. Here's a different. I was thinking about this the other night, Chris Hoge. I was walking. This is just last night, actually. I went out for a walk last night at about 11 p.m. It was minus 20 Celsius, and I went out for 53 minutes and did my 6-kilometer walk last night. Anyway, my thought. Oh shoot! Did I just lose my train of thought there? My thought was based on a certain. Oh crap! Where was I going with that, guys? Help me get back.
Minus 20 Celsius. Well, I mean, did your whole face just turn into an icicle as you step outside?
That was just a brag on how he goes out for walks. I was at the gym the other day. And,
I told
20 Celsius.
I told my wife that this morning. I go, I went last night because she's asleep by then, and she looked at me like, "Did your face freeze?" I'm like, "No, like I like the cold air. My chin got cold, but then I just pulled up my jacket and covered it." And I was fine, It's I like the cold air. It's not
how many layers do you have? Do you have like bundles?
T-shirt,
yeah,
card ladder hoodie, of course,
yeah,
and then a big Canada Goose, what we call a parka, a big winter jacket. Yeah,
okay,
and of course wearing yes, Ron Fig, yes, I was wearing a parka. Absolutely, I was. Absolutely. Shoot, I had a thought about some sort of comp question for you, Chris, and unfortunately I lost my train of thought, so I'll put it on the back burner. It should come back up for me. But here was my thought on the comps. As I think about comps, and it's actually thinking about comps that led me to writing the book Pops and Comps, which again coming out next month, because comps exist on a spectrum, just like many things in the hobby do, and we the hobby rely so much on comps because they are data points that are available in this hobby that we love so much on how we might want to govern our spending. And then I was thinking, like, when it comes to a really rare card that doesn't trade too much, maybe not a 1-1, but a card that's like, a LeBron James gold refractor, Topps Chrome gold refractor, or rookie card sort of thing, a card like that. We see these cards selling, and then we decide that that's what the card is worth, let's say. Or we find the comp on Card Ladder as an example, and we see a comp. We say, well, the last guy paid 50, let's say $5,000 for a card. Well, I'm willing to pay $5,000, or I'm not willing to pay more than $5,000. Maybe, I'm not willing to sell it for less than $5,000. And that's all because one guy, and maybe through the bidding process, but one guy was pushed up to that $5,000 in that one situation, that one night on that one marketplace. Not every buyer was aware of it. And so now we as a hobby, because of this comp economy that we have created, we are going to I love talking about like outsourcing our judgment. We're outsourcing our judgment on what that card is worth based on what some stranger paid for it. Just like we outsource our judgment on the condition of cards to a stranger at a grading company. Who may or may not be following the standards consistently or at all, and may have had the bad day. But in the comp world, we rely on other people's decisions on what to spend on a card so much that we buy and sell on it. People, the whole line, what percent are you paying? Well, percent of what? Of what some other stranger decided to pay on some card at some time? What I'm talking about doesn't hold up on regularly traded commodity cards, like a PSA 10 Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. There's enough people deciding what to pay, even though they're all following each other. My point here is when it comes to our reliance on comps, we are outsourcing our judgment to strangers on what they are paying on cards in that one situation that is not truly reflective of the whole sports card market. No comp is truly reflective of the whole sports card market because the whole sports card market is not privy to every auction and sale going on. So I don't know. This is more of a topic than a question. It's just something to think about. And I'm sure you all have thought about that, or many of you have. Chris, you're nodding along. Chris Hoge, I'll go to you with a response.
There's a million ways, things to say about this topic. Let me first address, because I think it's so interesting to deconstruct the mechanism of using comps to decide or influence or play a role in what we as collectors will pay for something later. And there are ways to sort of reconstruct why a comp-based system might rationally work, even though it's probably not actually the thought process that we're having. But I've thought about this for years and years. And so here's some of the things that I come up with. If you're looking at a comp, even if it's a super rare card, but it's in the auction format, you can rationally think or theorize the following. In the auction setting, the winning price is set by the second highest bidder. The highest bidder only has to pay one increment over what the second highest bidder ended up bidding. So because that is the case, it is rational to conclude that, like let's say it's a LeBron gold refractor Topps Chrome out of 50 from his rookie season, and I have a card in the same grade as the one that just sold. And let's say the one that just sold went for $100,000. So I can think to myself, okay, so the second highest bidder caused this to sell for $100,000 and they didn't win. So there is another person out there who didn't win this card, who did expressly convey through their behavior that they were willing to spend $100,000 on this card. So I can reliably, to some extent, predict that if I were to throw this card on eBay right now with a bin price of $100,000 and I got in touch with the auction house, I said, hey, can you please let the second highest bidder know that I have the exact same card in the exact same grade and it's available at the bin price for what their highest bid was? I could probably reasonably expect that there's a decent chance that they'll go buy it. Now, that's not for certain because people can get swept up in the emotion of an auction. They can have a change of heart. They might have felt strongly about the card one day and then they change their opinion and feel a different way about it a different day. But this is one of the ways that we can rationalize the comp system, even for a rare card, in the context of auctions. So I have a bazillion more things I could say, but I feel like I should just pause and just let us discuss that.
Yeah. I'll just jump in for a sec. Then we'll go to Sewell for some comments as well. Great stuff. And I mean, I think the comp system does definitely have its benefits. Its guidance is very valuable to our whole hobby economy, which I like to call the comp economy. One thing I didn't mention, which someone put in the chat, was that I didn't even mention the essence of shill that exists in all of these cards that we're buying as well. So we're not only outsourcing our judgment on what a card is worth, but it's not like you can just, okay, I judge the card to be worth $250. Sell it to me for $250. No, you're not going to be able to buy it for that. No one's going to sell it for that because these comps exist. So it's sort of a circular discussion, or maybe it's not. Maybe it just ends right there. But there is also the fact that these cards do have that essence of shill within them. But that's almost not an equalizer, but it's just a constant in a way. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just a part of the process. It's a part of being a sports card buyer. Hopefully not a part of being a pro sports card seller, but it's definitely part of being a sports card buyer. So yeah, good comments, Chris. I don't really have much more to say. I just wanted to put it out there and think about it. Chris Sewell, your thoughts on the topic? We'll go to Josh after.
Yeah, no, I think Chris said it really, really well. It's a great explanation of why a comp works, assuming it's a good comp. Now, obviously, there's reasons comps can be bad for many reasons, but assuming it's a good comp, it's a great explanation. And what I would say to you, Jeremy, if someone was like saying the comp system is not a good system, well, I'd say, what do you want to do? What's a better system? It's a data point, and that's the only data point you got. Like, yeah, in a lot of cases, like what else are you going to do? You're just going to, LeBron James, gold refractor rookie. You want me to, figure out what I think that's worth? There's no way for me to do it other than
there's no right. No, you're right. There is no real better way for us. There's people out there that say that, comps ruin the hobby, or comps are BS, or comps don't count. They don't matter. Like, just ignore them. There's times where I ignore comps a lot. Like, I don't buy every card I buy based on comps. I look at comps on a lot of cards, and sometimes I buy a card. I don't want to know the comp because I don't want to be dissuaded from buying it. I just want it. And if I'm going to overpay, if I'm going to double pay the last comp, like, I don't want to know. I'd rather just buy the card, be happy with it. I'm happy to pay the price. But you're right. What are our options? And I remember when Card Ladder was just an idea that Chris and Josh had, and Christina, and I was talking, back then I was talking, I even helped them out before they launched it a little bit with the hockey side of things, honored to do so. And I remember being so excited for Card Ladder to come. And then there were these ads about Card Ladder coming soon. No one knew what it was. And I kind of felt a little privileged because I did know what it was going to be. But yeah, I was so excited about it, and I still use it all the time. Like, I'm in Card Ladder every day. You can now, by the way, if you didn't hear earlier tonight on the Hobby Spectrum, you can link your Card Ladder showcase straight from your Hobby Spectrum directory tile. So that's kind of fun too. And if you go to mine, you can link right to my Card Ladder showcase now. But yeah, Chris, you make a good point. What are the options? There are no options, and it is the best way to. It's just data. It's all it is data. So where I do now diverge is say, do we need to still put so much stock into that data as what we are willing to buy or sell a card for? And maybe we should, because we don't know who the buyers are. Oftentimes we don't know. We sometimes know the seller. We don't know who the consigners are a lot of the time. We don't know what shill activity is happening, even though we assume there is shill. And unfortunately, and some people don't like that I speak like this, but I'm going to speak my reality. So yeah, good comments, Chris, I would say. So thank you. Josh, any thoughts on the discussion?
Yeah. So, recent sales comps are good for cards that sell all the time, but I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a card show. Guy's got a card. I'm like, how much you want for this? Well, I don't know. One hasn't sold in a long time. I'm like, well, then use your critical thinking skills. And but that's what you do, right? Like, if I always say, if I have a card, it's a Frank Thomas card, I'll say I collect Frank Thomas, and a Barry Bonds sold for X. I know in other sets, Frank goes for usually 50 to 75% of bonds. So I say, I'll do that. Here's what the bond sold for. Will you do this? Well, I don't know. And I think it's a matter of people don't want to, leave money on the table, and also they don't want to sell it for too low. But also they don't know what they're doing, which is also very dangerous. So I think I agree with both Chris's. It's a very good data point to have. But what happens when you want to buy a card that hasn't sold in several months, or doesn't sell at a frequency? So I think the problem is that a lot of people surrender their critical thinking skills in this hobby, and it's sometimes disappointing. Not these guys. These guys are smart.
And what you should do. Daddy, so. Yes, my dad. What you should do in that situation, John, is what you were just describing. It's called triangulation. You're taking data points that don't match up, and you're triangulating to get one that does make some sense.
That's what I did before Card Ladder. Like, you go to a card show, I'm like, I know what these cards sell for. This one hasn't sold in a long time. And it happens a lot with vintage, to be honest. It happens a lot with vintage, with certain different backs of T206s, different, other old judge cards. So Yeah.
I remember walking the floor at the National 2018 or 19, and I remember just being at a booth and hearing the guy talk to another customer. I heard the guy say something. The customer said something like, I don't know, I can't comp it. There's no comps. Then the guy says to him, he goes, I can comp any card. And he was ahead of his time at the time thinking about triangulation. And he's like, you can find other kind of cards to anchor yours to and go from there. So
Great.
Yeah. Dan's Vintage here said, what if, this is to one comment that you made, Chris Hoge, what if your second highest bidder is a shill bidder? And that's where you then have to, I think in that case, Dan, you look at the bidding history, if it's available, which eBay has it, you look at that feedback and you ignore all those 0 and 1s and low feedbacks, and you go to the next legitimate real feedback person that maybe isn't bidding all with one seller, and you go there and you ignore that second highest bidder. So I think what Chris is, and he's nodding along, I think what Chris is implying is it's the second highest legitimate bidder. And to Dan's point, we don't always know that to be the case, and that's why transparency in all auctions is very important. So both really good points there, both from Hoge, you're implying that, I have to think, Chris. You're not obviously going to pin any credibility on a shill bidder. I like Cage's comment. The essence of shill sounds like a new cologne brought to you by On Mantle. That's a good one. Cage also here says, I bought a card this year at nearly quadruple the last comp, and it was one of my best buys of the year. Best or favorite or both, I wonder, but either way, yeah, like, and if especially if that comp was $50, you bought it for $200, like no real big deal. If it's a $5,000 card, you pay $20, or a card that comped at $5 and you paid $20, you might feel differently. I don't know. That's up to each individual person right there. Lash Wine says comps are end all be all. I think it means aren't, but an important data point like quick visit are not. Yep. Canucks fan Jay-Z says sometimes you just buy a card because you want it and forget all the noise. Absolutely. Dan's Vintage says comps are also not particularly useful for low pop vintage. The only thing I'll say to that is that when I look at comps for not just any vintage, really, especially low grade, if you're between like the 1s and the 5s, where the grade the condition variation is so wide in that grading pyramid where 10s hardly move and 1s, there's a huge range of conditions. The lower down that grading pyramid you go, or the grading scale, the more that I think you have to dig into the comps and look at the card itself. You can't stop at the price, because the price is almost meaningless without a picture of the card. What are the reasons why it's graded as it is? So with all that now out of the way, and I'll just see if anyone else on the panel has anything to say before we maybe switch up a topic. But Chris Hoge, do you have anything to all that?
Yeah, I'll just because I just wanted to squeeze this part in too. It kind of ties back into the Ohtani talk and sort of how I was analyzing that as a collector. And like one of the things I think can be a new tool in the toolkit of collectors, especially like as we continue to grow a little more sophisticated and contextualize comps more and more. And I'm making that evolution right alongside all of us. And I think it's good. And it all kind of ties into sort of like eye appeal and scrutinizing comps and contextualizing things. I think they're all fruit of the same tree. And I think that one of the techniques that I like to use, and it requires a lot more research and requires a lot more patience and just sort of this like this constant knowledge and keeping tabs constantly on everything that's available. But I like to use the opportunity cost approach to comp something to, or not to comp something, but to price something too. Meaning, it may be this Griffey 89 upper deck PSA 10 is selling for $4,000. And, that's an established market price. And if one got sent to auction today, you can reasonably expect it would end within plus or minus 10% of that, just because the market is so liquid. There's so much demand for it. It's steadily transacting in that range. But so like in that sense, like the comp is predictable, it's replicable, it's reliable as an indicator of market price. But maybe to me, it's not worth that. It's not worth that to me, because maybe as a Ken Griffey Jr. collector, I say, well, what else could I get from Ken Griffey Jr. with $4,000? And then I do an eBay search and I look at 50,000 Ken Griffey cards, or or maybe if I narrow the band, maybe there's only a few hundred on eBay that are in the $4,000 range or something. But or I'm trying to look at and figure out multiples. But I price the card in terms of what else could I get for that money. But to do that, it requires a lot of effort and research. I really have to commit to truly surveying the landscape and seeing just what else is out there and what are sellers willing to let these other things go for, which kind of goes to a point that you make a lot, Jeremy, which is the point about, what is the value of a card if you've got a buyer who's willing to pay X and a seller who wants to let it go for Y. Which person actually does decide the value of that if neither can meet. And so, we don't need to rehash that debate. But just suffice it to say that that kind of factors into this opportunity cost analysis, because I have to sort of look and see what are all the owners of cards willing to let things go for, and am I compelled that I could allocate these funds in a way that'd be much more satisfying to my collection if I did it, if I allocated this $4,000 in a different way, or I come back to the conclusion that I really want this 89 Upper Deck Griffey PSA 10. But that's requires a lot. And then another component to that too is also not just understanding what's available right now, but understanding a player's full catalog. What are all of the Ken Griffey Jr. quote unquote rookie cards? What are all of his shiny 90s cards that I might like? What are all of his memorabilia autograph cards that I might like? And knowing the full landscape of his full catalog can really help me make an informed opportunity cost decision, knowing that there's this other stuff out there and it might not be available right now, but it might become available in the future. And I might want to hold off and wait for that too. So that's sort of my remedy and my approach. I like the opportunity cost approach.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to look at it. Outside of the premise of what you were just saying, I think it's really good advice that you give there, Chris. I don't know if you're giving advice, but I take it as advice, which is if you're going to collect a player and you're just going to dive in and buy, that first card, and you're going to spend significant money on it, whatever that means to you, understanding the full suite of available cards for that player before you take the first plunge. Because if you don't, you might regret and say, I just spent my whole budget on this one card, and maybe it's his 89 Upper Deck rookie, which who cares about that card? It's it's iconic, I know, but everybody has it. It's not rare. Give me a raw copy for $50. I'm good. Knowing the full suite can really save you some problems down the road or some regrets down the road. And I don't know how many people do that, Chris. I hear you talk about it more and more lately. I think it's really good advice is to just understand what your options are for that player. That's all I wanted to say about that there. Before I move on to there's a comment we're going to get to in the chat that's going to bring us into a new topic as well. But I want to go to Chris and Josh, if either of you have any comments based on anything there. And also, Chris, I just want to give you the opportunity, if you need to go, Chris Sewell, you're welcome to leave whenever you need to. But I know we kept you past when we originally scheduled. So
yeah, I think I am going to hop off. It is a couple hours past my bedtime here.
Okay, buddy. Well, watch the viewer count's about to tank as Chris Sewell leaves. But thank you, Chris.
No, everyone stay.
I'm kidding. Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, you too, Josh. Yeah.
Chris, we'll be in touch as always, buddy. Take care. Happy Merry Christmas to you and the family. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
All that stuff back to all of you, of course.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Okay, so let's do this now, Chris Hoge and Josh Adams. There's a comment that came out here from 35 Auburn. Does Card Ladder adjust the PSA 10 value on the 61 Wilt with the downgrade and population decrease? The recent PSA 10 sale gets an asterisk ? And just in case anybody doesn't know, we are talking about this right here. I'm just going to take the comment off the screen. So PSA downgraded Wilt Chamberlain's rookie. It was a PSA 10. It sold on Heritage in the summertime for $950,000 approximately, and they've downgraded the card to a 9, which is worth about $150,000, which is about an $800,000 value decrease. If we're just outsourcing what this is worth to everyone who else who's paid these amounts and the underbidders, Chris, it says PSA downgraded the card after the owner requested a review. I almost care less about the downgrade than why did the owner want the review? That is the big question. What possesses you to take a overgraded PSA 10, a complete imposter of a card, and say, hey, PSA, just knock $800,000 value off my card? What possesses you to do this. It sold for $976. I guess the buyer bought it for. And as Darren Ravel from Collect here says, led to the difference in the current market value led to around an $800,000 loss for the collector. How did this happen? I have to admit, I haven't even read this article. I've just heard a few people talk about this thing, and it doesn't look like it's very long anyway, so I could probably read it right here. But it's interesting what happened here. So, Chris, I'll go to you first. We talked about it on the premiere show the other night, and does the comp have to leave the comp database, the public comp database available on Card Ladder and a few other tools probably as well? And I think I'm curious to your answer. I'm sure you've had to think about this, Chris, but my thoughts before you share what happens is that in the moment, the market decided that card in the PSA 10 holder was worth $976,000 because that's what it sold for. That's what somebody paid for that card. I personally don't think you need to adjust what the market said happened in the summer of 2025. I think that just because the card was downgraded doesn't mean that the card didn't sell in its form at that time in that holder. So, I mean, listen, I don't care one way or another if it comes out of the comp database. Like, I shouldn't say I don't care. I might care, and I also am not married to that idea I just had. I'm not like I can be talked out of that. I can be talked around that, I'm sure, if I thought about this more. But my preliminary thoughts are, I don't think the comp needs to be removed. An asterisk like 35 Auburn said, that I can definitely get around. I think that's a good feature to add. But I'll put it to you, Chris. Do you guys at Card Ladder, have you decided what, and I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot here, Chris, have you decided what to do with that?
Yeah, well, the great thoughts from you. Very interesting topic. Love 35 Auburn. I follow him on Twitter. I think he's so thoughtful, and he has such a unique expertise and skill set that he brings when he analyzes and discusses topics. And I just saw a really cool piece of his collection this week too that actually blew me away. Okay, so to the topic here of what to do about this wilt. Okay, because I just pulled up my Card Ladder. I'm looking at it right now. And there's in philosophy, there's the is-ought distinction, the distinction between what is versus what ought to be, descriptive versus prescriptive. And our methodological stance is certainly that we want to be descriptive and not prescriptive. We want to say what is, not what ought to be. We want to try and capture, to the extent that we can, things that have transacted, and to the extent that we provide modeling, indexes, and so forth, we want it to be purely grounded in empirical data and not subject to the, at a certain point when you're constructing models, you have to make subjective decisions at some point, but to try and make it to remove as much bias and subjectivity as possible. And so when I look at a sale like this and I think about how does the descriptive methodology inform this, I think it simply says, let it stand. Let the data point stand as it is. And here's what if you pull up the sale and Card Ladder, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see that it's sold on Heritage. You're going to see that it's sold on August 23rd, 2025. You're going to see that the sold price was $976,000. You're going to see that the type of sale was auction. There's going to be a little book that you can click that takes you to the population report provided by GemRate, and the population report provided by GemRate is a universal pop, so you can see how many PSA, you can see how many SGC, you see the total universal pop there, and it breaks it down by grade. You see that Heritage titled it 1961 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain Rookie number 8 PSA Gem Mint 10. Then there's, if I didn't mention it, there's an image of the card. There's a link that takes you out to that specific, it's in the upper right corner. It takes you to that specific Heritage auction, that the one just to the right of that will take you to the auction page. So you can dig further. You can read the description of it. You can dive in further. I think there's ways to send offers to the owner, although that's a moot point now. So the first and foremost, the idea here is to just capture what happened and provide as much information, but economically, but as much information as possible within the little area of the screen without killing the eyes of the viewer. And I think Josh, of Cardboard Chronicles, Josh, who, is our CTO, he's our dev, he designs everything, he makes everything look amazing. I think like that it does present pretty nicely to the eye. Okay, so with that said, on any card in Card Ladder, there is a section called Notes where myself or one of our researchers can go in and can add additional context. And so as I was sort of thinking about the suggestion or the questions or thinking about the idea, I was thinking to myself, maybe it would be worthwhile to just add a note to which would appear at the bottom of this card. I could go in there and add a little note that simply explains, or maybe, and I don't want to just give opinion. I would take a link to an article that covered it, and I would just say, look, like, for further information on what happened to this card and what transpired with it, here's a link that you can learn more about it here. So I think that might be, that's sort of an asterisk. That's sort of just saying, look, for further context or to learn more about what happened with this card, here's a resource where you can do it. So I think that's a good suggestion, and I think I might just do that.
Chris, the notes, I'm looking at the card. Is it going to be down in this area?
It would be,
here?
I think it comes beneath index. Yep.
So right now there's no notes on this card. That's why we don't see it. Right.
Yep.
And the notes are on specific comps versus a card's profile on the latter part of card ladder.
Correct.
Right. Yeah,
Correct.
of course, because this is in the sales history part of card ladder, everybody. And by the way, it is the collection where if you're sharing your collection on card ladder, that you can add to your profile on Hobby Spectrum. Okay, a couple comments that came in from the chat on this so far. And Chris, yeah, I like the is ought approach. I don't think that card ladder is in a position to strike this from the record. It happened when I just wonder why the buyer even bought it, knowing that it was not a legit 10, that it was a complete imposter. Like, why would you even buy it? But we have some speculation in the chat, so let's just go to that for now. Jeff Blaze says probably a celebrity. Oh, that was on the show. Hey, sorry, that was an old one. By the way, Foul Ball, Merry Christmas, and welcome to the show. Cage says, owner gets cashed out, that's why. Well, does he? Because how much from the insurance policy, Josh? But PSA's terms and conditions do say max of 500,000 lifetime, 250 per card. Now, Chris, I don't know if you know, and I didn't look it up, but do you know if PSA's guarantee also says, or at our discretion, like does it say that they might ever go above those thresholds? I don't know the answer to that. That might open them up to a lot of conflict if they have that. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, it ain't much of a cap if then it says it's really not a cap, but still, they're certainly going to be playing the joints. They're capping it obviously presumably to have some, be able to get their arms around the level of exposure and risk to some extent, right? They want to be able to measure that. So, and obviously, of course, they want to limit it. They want it, they have to try and strike that balance. So, but it's also plausible that they would evaluate a one-off situation and say, well, maybe we make an exception here.
Maybe they do. Off the record NDAs are likely signed in that case, which is preferential treatment, and I wouldn't be a fan of that as a fellow collector, not playing in these depths of $976,000.
I'd like my cap to be infinite if we can put in requests.
And the other reason why they maybe can't say or at our discretion is because of, if they do plan to go public, they're going to have to disclose all their contingent liabilities, and one of them would be the amount of contingent, the potential liability on all these cards that are floating around out there. And don't forget, it's not just since the Nat Turner led group took over. This goes back in time to the beginning of time. So they probably are not going to go over that, in which case, and we don't know for sure. And if they did go over, it's likely NDA'd, which is kind of not cool anyway. But in either way, to Cage comment, maybe he didn't get cashed out. Oh, Cage might have inside information. Chris C says, but he didn't get $800K. And I think Chris is saying that because of the policies we're talking about. Dan's Vintage said the new buyer couldn't flip it and he wanted to recover the insurance. Could be. And as Chris C says here, max payout is nowhere near $800K. I thought, and you are right, as per the terms and policies, the max payout is nowhere near $800K. It's $250 per card and $500 lifetime for any person who is a customer, I suppose. Stuke says, who bought the card? It wasn't Nat Turner. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was. I mean, it should have been Nat Turner. And I would never say what Nat should or shouldn't do. But when I say, half tongue in cheek, it should have been Nat to get it off the market, to save the brand from having such an imposter in one of their slabs, even as old as that certificate was. And I believe that certificate, if we look, is it's a very old, it's a reslab, but it's a very old cert number. It starts with a 0. I mean, that's, that's late 90s, early 2000s, I believe. So interesting stuff there. Chris, any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. It's like, one thought that comes to mind, I remember, this is just purely speculating. But one thought that comes to my mind is, isn't it possible that maybe somebody participated in this auction and didn't scrutinize too carefully, or maybe they did, and maybe they felt like this is a 10, or who knows what their mind was. But then after, maybe somebody gently called their attention to some of the content and the thoughts and the opinions that had been shared about it. And maybe they took a little survey of the landscape and said, maybe I should get this reevaluated. Like, is this a 10? Like, there's a lot of people expressing skepticism, and they're zooming in on this, and they're saying, maybe this does merit a review. And to the point that you made, Jeremy, that one can certainly speculate that it would be in PSA's best interest also to get this in a grade that they're most comfortable with, that they feel is most accurate. So, you could certainly see that maybe the community, maybe the content creation played a role, the discussion, maybe it played a role, or was a bridge to connecting the buyer who's sort of especially after there's a rush after you buy something, but then after you bought it, maybe you're just sitting one day, you just start Googling, you're like, what did people say about the 61 Fleer Wilt PSA 10 that I bought? I bet somebody said, and then they're like, holy crap, like, okay, maybe I need to get this reviewed again. So that's just one possibility. There's a lot of different possibilities that could have happened here, but I do think the discussion, I think the community, there's a chance they played a role here.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get Joshua involved at Wanted Classic Cars request here, but we will, of course. I just want to, Mike Double V says, contingencies are all off balance sheet in the notes. No one reads those. See Enron, except Mike, the investment bankers. The investment bankers, that's almost all they look at, because they have to protect all of the entities that are going to go sell this investment at IPO to their investors. They look at contingent liability. I've had to prepare contingent liability reports for investment bankers in the past. So now the layman, the retail investor, once the thing is already public, you're right, Double V, Mike, no one's reading, never mind not reading the notes to the financial statements. They're not even looking at the financial statements. They're just listening to what their friends are doing or watching. They're doing charts, right? So, but as far as investment bankers, and that's why I mentioned, if they're going to IPO, damn straight they're looking at the contingent liabilities. Kinger says, Chris, may I ask, when on the Card Ladder app, I assume mobile version differs from desktop, having difficulty filtering daily hockey sales by highest price on mobile app. I'll just say, Chris, unless you can answer this quick, I would say reach out to support, but
yeah, or you can reach out to me directly on Instagram at Chris_Hose. You can just reach out to me directly or reach out to support too. And because I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, so maybe you could show me some examples and we'll get that figured out.
Chuck Uke says the company, The Authority, who I had the president on a special episode here this past week, you can see that on the channel. Anyway, says they are making available their card grading guide in 2026. What he's referring to, or what the Authority is referring to as the not global, but universal public grading standards, I think is what they're calling them. And this is a company that is going to become a grading company in the hobby, and they will be publishing their grading standards, which they say, and I agree with them, no one else has done. You can see standards on every company's website, but it doesn't tell you how to grade a card. There's a little bit there, but it doesn't tell you how. And what the guys from The Authority are saying, Jeff Mullen, who I had on Sports Cards Live to learn about this, he said that they want to teach everybody how to grade cards. And so something to think about. Don't know if this is going to turn into being just another startup grading company. It's going to try and make some noise, or if they are going to, if the hobby is going to adopt this or not, time will tell. Kate here says PSA reslabbed it after 2017, so it passed PSA a second time. So that's a big question. Is reslabbing regrading? Is reholdering? Because you can reholder for cheap. Do they not do? I don't know who knows the answer. Chris, Josh, chat. On a reholder, does PSA kind of revalidate the grade on the holder? I don't know. I think they should, but I don't know the answer. Chris, do you know?
I don't know, but I would think that the policy would probably be on their website, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, fair. Matthew says that's why I feel like PR for PSA was like, let's do this obvious thing and make us look good again by paying out the Chamberlain. Sure. But like Cage said, they reslapped it in 2017. That is pre-Nat Turner led investment group owning collectors and Nat running being the, what is he, Chris? President, CEO, whatever his title is. He's the head honcho at Collectors Holdings, right? So yeah, interesting. Yeah, Mike W, you've lived it, so you know, but so you know what I mean, that the contingent liability is very important when it comes to IPO. Ron Fig, what are the chances PSA would drop it more than one grade? Dropping it one grade is bad enough, but imagine if they dropped it to a 7. And I think Dan up here said, yeah, the 9 isn't even an accurate grade, which I agreed with in the summertime. I'd have to look again to remind myself, but I don't disagree with what Dan is saying there. Automatically, I don't. At least Larry Gitlin says they do not reevaluate unless the holder is cracked such that it would affect the grade. So says Larry, not doubting Larry, but I mean, this is hearsay from Larry here on the show, but thank you for jumping in with that, Larry. And if that is true, then not unless the holder is cracked such that would damage the card, which means that a card that has been sitting out in the sunlight without a damaged slab, but the card is not the same color as it was when it was first slabbed, the grade would not change. If that is the policy, I don't think it's good enough, but I'm sure they have their reasons. Dan said the policy is on their website. They don't regrade. They just authenticate the slab and card and re-slab it, which that policy I have an issue with from just an overall like ethical standpoint. Business-wise, I get it completely. And by ethics, I mean like my own self-imposed hobby ethics, not anyone else's. So, although I'm sure a lot of people agree with me, but I'm just like, I'm not saying that they're being unethical completely to everybody's thought, but to me, I don't think that's right. That the grader could have a second look at the card and and can knowingly put it back out into the public domain with an inaccurate grade. I just don't think that's but there's reasons not to degrade it or not to lower the grade. One of which is liability and paying out the insurance on it. So you know what? I mean, you guys know I've been very critical of PSA for a while now, and they don't have an easy job. Like as critical as I am, and I don't envy Nat. I mean, do I envy his card collection, his unopened pack collection? Certainly. I love his unopened pack, not his unopened wax, his pack collection. But I don't envy the job that he has. I just do not. And I know a lot of people are going to say, don't cry for the guy. He's got so much money. I don't know. He's still a human being. He still puts on his pants one leg at a time, just like the rest of us every day. And as much as I don't agree with some of the things that come out of PSA, I do not envy the position that Nat Turner is in his role as president of Collectors Holdings. Don't think I could do that job. So anyway, all that. Couple more comments here. We'll go to the collection firm. There was a time on Clubhouse back in the day. It's like David is the only person that brings up Clubhouse anymore, Chris. It feels like such a long time ago, but those were some good times. He says there was a time on Clubhouse back in the day. It was back in the day now. With a moisture issue, and they did lower the grade, I believe, and Nat even came on Clubhouse to explain it. That's cool. That's very cool. Josh, you remember that?
I do. They said, I mean, so like, I have my own, well, I'll answer this question directly. Yes, someone had moisture. They wanted to re-slab, the car got knocked down a grade. I remember specifically.
Yeah, interesting. Larry says, I just went through this as they had to get an okay from me to regrade the card that had a cracked case. Okay. Very, very interesting, Larry. Thank you for sharing your experience. Dan says, let's be real. They would have to change the grades for many reslab requests. That's it. That's the business side of it. And that's the part where I don't envy the position, especially when these cards were graded before the current ownership group took hold. But that's why contingent liabilities are so important when you are doing any business transaction. The old owners of PSA, whoever the executives when it was public, whoever that was it Joe Orlando or I forget anyway, whoever it was, and the team, because let's face it, Nat and company wouldn't have just said, hey, Joe, we'll give you 900 million. No, they would have had a due diligence team go in and look at everything and go through the books for years and years. And no doubt they honed in on this contingent liability of this insurance policy where they are funding the payouts. And so they knew what they signed up for. That said, I still don't envy the position that they are in. Chris C here says, Chris McGill, do you ever see the scenario where we could have a 90s basketball wax or card museum? It was such an innovative time. Over to you, Chris, on that.
Yeah. Or how about here's a digital one to start with. And on that topic, I have expressed to folks at Collectors Universe that I think it would be really cool if Beckett's publications got digitized. So like the 90s Beckett magazines of, hockey, baseball, football, basketball, because there's just gold mines of information there. But, they're all physical copies, and, I don't have copies of, I have like 50 or 60 Beckett's from the 90s somewhere, basketball, but, if it was all digitized so that I could just push Control F and look things up, like last week, like for example, those Beckett magazines are one of the very few, or maybe the only place that might have like release date information for products. And so I was just, not that this matters to anybody really, but I was sort of like thinking about last week about how Michael Jordan retired in January of 1999. And so it's generally accepted that his playing days cards are 1997-98 issues. But 1998-99 issues, there were several that actually were produced, released to the public prior to his official retirement. And so that's just an interesting factoid. That's just a little piece of trivia that attaches to cards that. True, they come from a season that Michael Jordan wasn't rostered for, which is 1998-99, but they predate his retirement, which was January of 1999. So like those late 98 releases, how do I find the release dates? And like they're not online, right? Like, but they would be, because they were contemporaneously documented by Beckett magazines in the late 90s. And when they did the product previews and product reviews and stuff like that, it would be documented there. So like that right there is a little treasure trove of information that if these Beckett publications got digitized, that, we could go and research that and we could look it up fairly efficiently, and then, what if they built like well, let's not get carried away, but it's just the ability to search it and look it up and stuff. There's just so much information in those publications. So like, that's something that I've been excited about, is just the potential that, maybe at some point, I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, but at some point those publications could get digitized, and that would be really helpful to some of my research.
And for now, I would just say Instagram is a great place. That's your museum. I don't think we're going to see a 90s basketball sports card museum. I mean, a collector would have to open it up in their city, in some facility. So I don't really think we're going to see that unless it's just self-funded type of thing. Hoops Hobby Hanger says, nice to see you back, Chris. And by the way, yeah, Chris, I meant to say at the top of your appearance tonight, you had 2 weeks off due to illness. I do want to see doctor's notes, by the way. I'm going to need to see those doctor's notes.
I haven't even left Connecticut yet. That's your doctor's note. Yeah, Christine and I, we stayed out east and made Christina's mother take care of us while we were sick. So
yeah.
But next time you see me, I'll be back in the old digs.
Good stuff. Good stuff. A couple more comments here. Cage here said the PSA 10 pop for 86 Fleer Jordans would be cut in half if they regraded them all on reholder requests. And that makes me think about when Rick Probstein has like 30 or so PSA 10 Michael Jordan 86 Fleers, when he submitted them all to Beckett to try to get the first BGS 10 black label. I think he was after a black or a pristine. I'm not even sure. He was hoping to get one of those, and he didn't get a single one. I don't think he got a single card crossover to even a BGS 10. So, which comes back to that topic earlier on in the night, all about what is PSA going to do with Beckett. That right there is one of those signs of like, it would not be a good look for the PSA brand to have any 86 Fleer PSA 10 broken out and subbed to Beckett, even though it happened 30 times to Rick. And I don't know if he cracked them and did it or probably or how he did it. But anyway, just that. And then finally, Cards for Life says, shouldn't Heritage be somewhat responsible for selling a bogus card? And this is an interesting comment, and I actually meant to address it earlier, but we got onto other things. And I'm going to say, is because I know the terms and conditions on these auction houses, the answer is no. Basically every auction company has a very detailed clause in their terms and conditions that basically says how they are not responsible for the grades on these cards. They are simply a reseller, and I don't think they should be responsible for it. Cards for Life, I don't think Heritage has any liability in this position. Now, when we were looking at the listing earlier, and I had the text up for longer than was probably good because it was boring for you guys to look at, I was looking for any upsell of the card in the description for that exact reason. And I couldn't spot anything where they said this beautiful gem mint PSA 10 Wilt Chamberlain card, that is all of a gem mint. I didn't see any language like that, which almost makes me think that that they knew that they had an imposter in their auction catalog that month, whatever it was. So, but my answer to that is no. I don't think Heritage should be responsible for. It's not a bogus card. It's a misgraded card. It's an overgraded card. It's not a counterfeit, nothing like that. If this was a counterfeit slab, then yes, I think Heritage should have some responsibility for not vetting the cards that they are selling properly. In that case, Cards for Life, I'm with you, but you look at the terms and conditions. Again, not enough people look at the terms and conditions of any auction house when they're doing business with them. And hopefully this year has been a lesson in that, and people will now look at the T's and C's, and you will see that they make it very clear, not only that are they not responsible, but that they even go on to say that if the grade changes in the future, we are still not to be held responsible or liable. And I think that makes sense. So no, I personally don't think Heritage should be somewhat responsible here. Now, I could see some people taking the other side of that and saying, yeah, but it's the hobby. Shouldn't they be looking out for everybody in the hobby? And maybe there's an argument for that, but you know what? The hobby barely looks out for itself, you guys. And I'm not saying that's a reason, but like I said, PSA is your daddy. And we're all good with that, it seems. So where is the buyer beware in all this? And listen, I want to help as many hobbyists as I can in as many ways as I can, but there comes a point where it's like, are you going to just, put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants and like take some responsibility for the decisions you're making, or you're always going to look to blame someone else? Now, of course, you buy a fake card from a reputable seller. That's a different story. This is not a fake card. It was an imposter of a 10. So, yeah, I'll just sort of stop there on that. And I have a feeling, Chris, you were taking notes, which might mean you might have something to say. So unless Josh wants to jump in before Chris does, we'll go to Chris.
Go ahead, Josh.
I have a lot of, well, first of all, that's standard contract law. An auction house is a bailor for the goods. They're not, unless they know it's counterfeit and knowingly sell counterfeit stuff. The safeguard is a PSA holder. Everyone loves PSA and respects them until they don't, like that question. Second of all, I have a question about this whole Wilt Chamberlain thing. Like, I don't really read too much into it because I'm not going to be buying a $900,000 card anytime soon. But what is there to check out? If the guy bought it and it's a 10, it's not like he bought it in an 8 and thought he can get a bump on it. Like, what is he checking out? Like, what was he having them look at? Why would you want a lower grade if you're buying the 10? Like, none of this makes any sense to me.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Like some people said, he wanted to get paid out on the insurance, and maybe I don't know if he keeps the card to that, if he has it now in a PSA 9. Josh, that's what we don't know why he did this.
Can I ask a question though? When you say paid out on the insurance, what do you mean?
PSA's grade guarantee.
So what would he be benefiting? So he paid what, 900,000 for the card, and if it's not, so he just get the money back?
Yeah, they would pay him the difference between what he paid, because that was, and what the card is worth, and oftentimes they at PSA they will use card ladder data to determine what that card is worth, and the 9 is worth about 150. This was 950. They owe him 800 grand, but they max out at 500 lifetime and 250 per card. So really, they only had to give him 250, and now he's literally out 550K. 800 minus 250 is 550. He's out $500,000 plus.
I mean, I don't feel too bad for him. If you're going to spend that much money, you should probably do a little research. So, I mean, that's honestly, that's you're an adult.
That's fair.
A lot of money.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Chris, let's go to you for the wrap up on the topic, and maybe the show for that matter.
Yeah, well, I think this is such an interesting question from Cards for Life 77, and I don't know. I loved your thoughts on it. I thought you went in all the places I was going with it, and so I'm just gonna offer something. But I'm not saying that I know the answer to this. I think it's a really interesting ethical question. To what extent? So I would the way I started thinking about it was a little bit differently. Like I started getting a little bit nervous or concerned, just because like the way that I started framing it was like, well, so if somebody buys essentially, not just to take the idea to its extreme. This is not what Cards for Life 77 said, but this is me sort of extrapolating and taking the idea to its extreme. If I go out and I buy a card and it turns out that the card is overgraded, and I made a mistake, I bought a card that was in a slab that was too high for its condition, does that mean I can't sell it anywhere? Does that mean that I have to take it back to the grading company and say, you need to regrade this, and then all the platforms will then come out and sort of say, well, yeah, okay, we agree that this is now accurately graded, so now you have permission to sell it. That's a slippery slope concern that nobody's saying that that's happened here, but that's sort of the extrapolation of it. Is like, if a marketplace is ethically responsible to only sell cards that they believe are properly graded, then at that point, that means that if I buy an overgraded card or an undergraded card for that matter, what if I buy an undergraded card? Does that still do they and then does the marketplace do all the platforms open themselves up to, if if somebody buys a card and they say, well, by you selling it, you warranted it implicitly that it was properly graded, but then I got it in my hand and I decided that I don't think it is properly graded. So then do they have an issue, a dispute, a possible claim based on that implicit warranty? So I'm trying to think about the implications of it, and it worries me a little bit just to think that but the flip side of it is that we do want to protect platforms. I'm certain that no platform wants to have buyers out there who buy cards from them and then are disappointed because it's overgraded. I don't think any platform wants to give that customer experience.
I think what you're saying, Chris, because what I'm thinking about this, and just imagine if this were to happen, all of a sudden now the auction houses are graders as well. Right. And isn't there a big conflict of interest issue when a grader is also a seller? We've seen that narrative everywhere. So to say that the auction house should be now taking on the role of grader, I don't think I think that's a worse case, a worse situation than the one we're in, which is where we have cards graded in the 90s and early 2000s that are, according to today's I don't want to call them standards, but adherence to standards is so poor. I just don't see that being a good situation for the hobby. I think that would cause more issues than with the current status quo, where basically, again, these, like you said, I forget how you put it, Chris, but they are you use a term there for what they are. They are simply a middleman selling one person's goods to another person's goods to another person. They are not in the position to tell you what the card is worth. They are there. Now, sometimes they do tell you what the card is worth through the action of the active reserves or the house bidding. That happens sometimes. So they're trying to they're trying to push you to what the card is worth. But that's a different issue, guys. We'll leave that. You can go see plenty of talk on that in past episodes. But yeah, I think to answer the question, Chris, to add on to your response, I don't think that that's a better situation. So personally, Josh, do you have any comments as someone who does co-own an auction house, 90sauctions.com?
Yeah, no, you're not responsible for the card if it's in a holder. And I mean, no, you're not responsible.
And don't forget, guys, too, some auction houses will only sell cards of certain grading companies. I remember Ken Golden at the beginning of the pandemic said that if any new grading company comes out, they're going to wait 5 years to get their cards on his marketplace. And it seems to me like, maybe he needs to reconsider selling PSA slabs on his marketplace. Now, of course, I'm saying that, just for effect. I don't mean that because there would be no cards for sale then. He'd go out of business. So, yeah, it's those auction catalogs would go from like 100 cards to 15 cards. So that's never going to happen. But that's a PSA slab is about as good as it gets from a branding perspective in this hobby. So, yeah, again, to the original question, I think it's a resounding no. Heritage has no liability, nothing to worry about here. I wouldn't place any blame on them. If I were a big customer of theirs, though, and I had a rep there who I'm like, hey, I see you have this Wilt Chamberlain. What do you think? You think should I put in a bid on that? And if the guy said to me, yeah, it's a great card, they'd never see my face or my money again if they were to mislead me that way. But that's, how many bidders actually reach out and say, hey, expert card guy at Heritage, what do you think about this card? I don't know if Heritage offers a service like that. That's where I said jokingly on Monday night, hey, if anybody wants to hire me to be your personal sports card purchasing consultant, maybe that's a role I could fill. This guy who did that, I could have saved him $550,000 and I would have probably only charged him a couple. So, so I could have put this guy in a way better position than he's in now. But yeah, all those thoughts. It's a great question. Great topic. Guys, we're 3.5 hours in. I see Justin Bode is laughing at a comment Cage said, so it makes me go up and see what Cage said. He says, this Wilt had a Mike Baker Brown label on it, bottom 5% eye appeal. That's something you never hear about that, right? We don't hear about the negative stuff as much when it comes to bragging, let's say. I love bragging. I use bragging loosely, but bragging about my PSA 1s because they look like 5s, 6s, and 7s. I will brag about my low grade cards all day long. Brag, just share them. It's I love that. I think I can say not brag because it's a 1. Who's going to call showing a 1 a brag? But to me, it kind of is that way. It's so cool. So, Sundin, I don't get the brown eye appeal label. There isn't one. He's saying it looks like what else is the color brown, I think is what Cage was getting at. And it's worthy of the LOL that Justin Bode gave. Tony Conti, you're welcome for the show tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Linda's first. I love bragging about all my raw cards. Yes, do it. Absolutely. Oh, you do get it. Okay, Sundin. Okay. Hey, Kinger. Good to see you. Thank you. Guys, as I mentioned earlier on the show, I don't know if either of you heard, but no show next Saturday. I will be traveling, but I'm thinking about doing one on either the 30th or the 31st, which is New Year's Eve. I don't know it'll be the 31st. We'll see if are either of you guys available on New Year's Eve or you got plans.
What day of the week is New Year's Eve?
I believe it's a Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
I mean, hanging out on this stream is a lot safer than the average New Year's Eve option.
Fair.
So it might be a wise choice to just have a nice night at home. Yeah, and then we all celebrate together. Yeah,
it's a possibility. I'll probably wouldn't be able to go live as early as usual, which I know is late on the East Coast, but probably wouldn't be able to go live until late as midnight Eastern, maybe 11 o'clock, which is 9 my time. It's New Year's Eve. I'm gonna have to. I thought I'm going to have to, but I'll spend some time with my wife on New Year's Eve, I'm sure. So we'll see what comes of it, guys, though, whether we do one on the Wednesday, maybe I'll do one on the Tuesday, but if we don't do them at all, this was the last episode of Sports Cards Live for 2025, but we will be back in 2026. yeah, want to just share that with you guys. Again, I will shout out the hobbyspectrum.com. If you are not yet on the wait list, please go put your name on the wait list. Both Josh Adams and Chris Hoge are both on the Spectrum. There's more than one Spectrum out there, guys. There's more than one Spectrum out there. We're gonna bring another meaning to that term, at least within the hobby, hopefully. So go get your name on the wait list, guys. It's a fun way to discover your own collecting identity, or at least put some words around it, some insights, and discoverability. You can link all of your social media and hobby platforms. Here's what the directory looks like once you are in it. Everyone on it gets their own little tile, is what I'm calling these things. And you can see the various links that people are putting up right here. Mike Double V has several links, so you can go discover people's various card ports, their My Card Post, ComC, eBay, Linktree. He's got an account on Sports Lots, various things. You go down to my own. I've got plenty in here, but you can see all these links: Card Ladder, My Card Post, Mantle, The Essence of Shill by On Mantle. I love that. That was hilarious. So it's a discoverability. It's also a way to, again, just find more people like you, more collectors like you, and learn a bit about your own collecting identity. Check it out. It is free to use. Thank you to the Currency Project. Happy holidays to everybody, says Chris C. And of course, we wish that back to everybody as well. Chris C says quality. Thank you. Dan's Vintage, very strong show, Jeremy. Great end to a great year. Thank you, Dan, and happy New Year to you, and happy holidays to you and your family. And that goes out to everybody out there. Happy holidays to Yankees fan, Hoops Hobby Hangout, Kinger, Currency Project, Nick Chen, Chris C, Larry Gitlin. He's a nostalgic 24. Just got his score. Don't forget to join the directory. Larry, if you haven't, Real Ron Fig, thank you so much. A Merry New Year to you, sir. Carl Taylor, I've come back to this right at the end. So, this was a fun show, Carl. Go back and have a look. Skeppy, Happy New Year to you. Linda's first. Thanks, Jeremy. All the guests, happy holidays and New Year to everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Chris and Josh, any final words? Even just goodbye and happy New Year's from you before we end this. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. Goodbye, happy New Year's, and I don't know if Joe had ever used the word preternatural prior to tonight on the show. I like to take note when he expands the hobby's lexicon. So preternatural was employed tonight. I had to look it up, and love it when Joe jogs the noggin. Shout out, Joe.
When Joe speaks the language that no one else understands, because listen, Chris, you have a great vocabulary.
He has the vocabulary of an English professor.
Joe's is beyond. Josh, how about some goodbyes from you, buddy?
I've loved coming on this show. I can't wait to come back on in 2026. I just love it. It's one of the best parts of the hobby for me. Go Bears. They're going to win the Super Bowl now, obviously. What a game. Green Bay sucks. And I'm just happy to be part of the hobby with you guys. Always love hanging out with you and Chris and all your guests. I meet a lot of great people, and the chat's always fun. And have a happy holiday, happy and safe New Year.
Thank you. And by the way, if you're going to be coming to the Sport Card Expo in early May of this year in Toronto, Josh is going to be at my booth. He's going to be setting up with me at the booth. Right. So we're going to be hanging out at Expo as well. So definitely you can come and check us out there and meet Josh if you haven't, or just come say hi. Hey, we love seeing people. Ryan Fitzgerald, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you and your family. Chuck Uke, same to you. Happy New Year. Happy holidays to everybody. Guys, I don't want to say this is the last show of the year because we might still do one. So I'm not going to say that yet, even though it might be. But for now, here on December the 20th, or the 19th when we started. No, it's still the 20th where I am. No, it's the 19th. No, it's the 25th. December 20th, 2025. This episode of Sports Cards Live is now over. And with that, good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in and being a part of the Sports Cards Live community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most of all, keep collecting. More great content to come. Sports Cards is a lifestyle.